Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Super Saiyan rose Naruto Chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by VFSNAKE and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1 Saiyan Transformation. Bardock could feel the intense heat from the giant ball of energy Frieza had unleashed on his home planet as he could feel death ready to claim him, but even as life left his body, the Saiyan warrior could only smile with joy, knowing his son would rise beyond his own limitations and avenge their race. It would be ironic when that day happened, as Frieza's fear of the Saiyan race being his own undoing and at the hands of Bardock's own son. His third-class Saiyan of a son would one day achieve the ability to become the Super Saiyan of legend that was coveted beyond anything else among his people. It would be glorious. I just wish I would be there to see it. Good luck my son, thought Bardock as he closed his eyes and let death take him with a smile on his face. Or at least what he thought was death. Elsewhere another dimension. Beyond Aim Hokage had just battled Uchiha Madara, freed the Kyuubi from the man's control, and called forth a Shinigami to seal the fox within his own son. Something he had no intention of doing when Kushina's pregnancy hit its apex and the seal holding the Kyuubi weakening to the point where the fox might break free. Minato didn't know how Madara was alive, much less how he knew where Kushina's hideout was during the last few hours of the pregnancy prior to his interventions, but the man had just about screwed up everything for the Hokage and his village. Now here he was using his own sealing methods, which were in truth second best when compared to his wife's own, which would bind the fox to his son and turning Naruto into a Jinchuriki. Minato was not naive to believe the village would see his son like the hero he wanted the boy to be, as Jinchuriki were hated for what they held, ironically by the very people that made them Jinchuriki in the first place, and yet the Hokage did not want this for his son. The original plan was for Naruto to receive Kyuubi like his wife did at a much older time when Kushina herself could not hold the fox and let the woman use her own sealing methods to transfer the 9 tails to Naruto. But not everything goes according to plan. It's time, mortal. Say goodbye. I have things to do, said the Shinigami as he saw the blonde man put his son down on the ground, the sealing finally complete, and wished there was some way the boy could be protected from such a harsh life. Strange how during the entire fight with the fox after Madara fled, as Minato summoned the death god, no one saw the bleeding body fall from the sky from the very real the spiritual entity came from and land right on the Kyuubi's back. Like a tiny flea amongst its fur, but barely felt by the large mass of demonic chakra and was sealed into Naruto too. Goodbye son. I'm sorry for this. I never wanted this for you. Same with your mother. Whatever you may think of us in the future, I will understand and won't hate you for hating me if the village does what I think they will. All I can ask of you is to endure what they dish out and know your mother she tell you to return it back 1,000-fold, said Minato laughing knowing his wife would say that to her son. But that being said, the Shinigami took the soul of Namikaze Minato, but before leaving for its own real, the death god looked back at Naruto and sensed something else upon its entry to this realm had happened. Something about the boy's energy had suddenly changed but was restrained by the seal with his mark and even in part by the fox itself. The Shinigami could only conclude that whatever this something was, it was not part of the boy, not connected to Kyuubi, and not connected to this very dimension. The death god had always been told by the other powers above that such a contract was dangerous to have since it tore partially into the dimensional fabric, risking something from another place, from another dimension from getting through and entering this dimension. Now it was starting to suspect Kami and Yami were right. Of course they were always right when it came to matters like that since they had helped the death god make such a contract with the mortals of this village. In the name of balance they said. Needed to be put in place to counter a forbidden jutsu that cheated the Shinigami out of a few of the souls in his deathly realm from staying there for an unknown amount of time. However, the Shinigami could not remove this unknown entity from the boy as it would mean removing the seal and freeing the Kyuubi again. The Shinigami didn't want that as it had enough paperwork on its hands already just from the sealing alone and didn't want to make things even more complicated than it already was. Let the mortals deal with this situation and if it bit them in the ass. Oh well. More souls for its realm. Inside baby Naruto. Bardock opened his eyes as pain shot through his body and wondered if this place was hell for all the evil he had done for Frieza. Not that he probably didn't deserve it. Frieza had attacked so many worlds and the Saiyans had been at the forefront of it for a long time getting stronger and done what most of the tyrant's normal army couldn't. Why is it so empty? Surely hell doesn't have a floor reserved entirely just for me? Said Bardock to himself looking left and right before he felt the ground around him shift. Who is there? Show yourself. Said a deep voice as Bardock felt himself being moved left and right along the tall red grass he was feeling underneath his broken body. I would like to, but my body is badly beaten and I can't move, said Bardock. Well, he heard a deep growling sound and felt something very powerful was underneath what he thought was the ground when in fact it was something very much alive. Get off my body, said the voice as the ground shifted further around Bardock and the Saiyan soon found himself falling off the fur onto the hard wet ground. The force staring up at angry crimson eyes that burned with an intense fire at him and a giant clawed appendage ready to end his already fading life. Sorry. Not my intention. Where are we? Said Bardock as he stared at this vulpine-like creature and knew of the classification of animal this was since he had seen them before on various planets. Of course none of them were this big or powerful. We have been sealed inside this human child. He's the son of our sealer and are stuck here until the boy's death, said Kyuubi as she watched the Saiyan look around with some effort and saw his body was in fact injured to near-death circumstances. The only reason he was still alive was because time had no meaning here and thus stalled his death from happening. I don't know, suppose healing me would be out of the question. Do you even have the power to heal me? Said Bardock as he heard the fox growl at him and felt the Kyuubi's power surge around her before entering his body. The only reason I choose to heal you, monkey, is because you might have some use for my vessel in the future and I am in need of some company, said Kyuubi as she saw his injuries heal, but even then it appeared that his body had been in a cross between life and death before even being unintentionally part of the sealing. Thanks. I feel weird. Like I am alive, yet in a way I'm dead and feel like I'm being drained with each passing second, said Bardock as he got off the ground and saw the golden bars before heading over to them with the feeling of his energy leaving for that area. This seal was designed to drain me of my power and give it to my vessel. Since you are here with me, the same applies to you and our shared vessel will no doubt absorb traits from yourself in the process. Eventually, you will be fully absorbed into him like I will and will be no longer our own individual selves, said Kyuubi, though her tone became sad near the end. So the boy will inherit the spirit of the Saiyan race. Interesting, said Bardock as he saw the fox look at him now with a raised eyebrow and he explained things to her that shocked the vixen before she in turn explained things to him about the world he was now in. Your race sounds powerful. It's actually a shame they were destroyed, said Kyuubi as she saw him nod and look past the bars to the boy on the other side asleep. I want more than just the spirit of the Saiyans to live on outside of my son in my own dimension. Don't get me wrong, he'll clean up the mess we made in serving Frieza, but I want to start things off anew and bring about a newer version of the Saiyan race. Is it possible for me to give him Saiyan blood through this seal? To turn him into a Saiyan? Said Bardock as he saw Kyuubi think things over and run a claw under her fury chin. Possibly. This seal is designed to absorb energy and blood does have energy. It will take some time, some tinkering and effort for well over a decade. However, due to the nature of the seal, it may not manifest itself until later and only if the seal is somehow altered, so the absorption process of our energy stops long enough to let any alterations we make to the body become active, said Kyuubi as she saw Bardock nod and look at the boy that would be his new legacy. I want him to embrace the way of the warrior, but not enough that he becomes like we were under Frieza's rule and still have the potential to keep a level head. When the time comes, this boy will achieve a power that will rival the Super Saiyan of legend and all his enemies will tremble in fear, said Bardock as he saw Kyuubi nod and grin a huge grin at the implications. A vessel worthy of both of us. Though I should warn you in advance, this village will hurt him because of me and stunt his growth in the process. He should also be allowed to absorb your mentality just to be on the safe side, said Kyuubi as she saw him nod and then look at his own tail for a second and thought. Can we also give him a tail? A Saiyan tail? Said Bardock as he turned to face Kyuubi and the fox seemed to consider it. It's possible. I can also purge the weakness your race possesses, should someone grab it, said Kyuubi before she blushed at seeing Bardock's lack of clothing and was only in a tattered loincloth that did little in terms of hiding the Saiyan's manhood and made a mental note to make sure the boy inherited that too. And make it grow back. Said Bardock while Kyuubi nodded and trying to focus on the other impressive thing around the Saiyan's waist. You have to ask. Said Kyuubi while Bardock smirked at her. No, but I just like to make sure. This is going to take a lot of trial and error on our part, said Bardock while Kyuubi scoffed. But it will. Now let's begin. We have work to do, said Kyuubi while looking away from him and fighting back the blood that wanted to leak out of her nose. Forest of Death 12 years later. Zaku had just obliterated the little cave-dwelling Leaf's Team 7 had been holed up in before Sasuke was on him and the only one among the cells still in it was Naruto. The boy had been unconscious due to Orochimaru hitting him with the 5 elemental seal and then throwing the Jinchuriki into a tree where unconsciousness claimed him. For the other Leaf shinobi around Team 7 to witness the event, they felt death had just claimed Naruto too and there were mixed feelings all around. Some were shocked, glad, angry, and uncaring to the fact Naruto had been blown away by the sound shinobi. "Come on Sakura. We need to leave if we're going to make it to the central tower," said Sasuke while Sakura nodded but looked back at where Naruto's supposed grave was and saw the other shocked faces around them. "You can't just leave him buried under that. He's your teammate," said Ino as she saw Neji shrug since it was no skin off his back while Tenten wanted to help and Lee already digging for him. "Stop Lee. We have our own objective to complete. Leave the fool in the ground. At least his body will provide nourishment for the worms in the ground," said Neji as he walked away and Lee scowled at him. "He is a Konoha shinobi. If you were in his place, would you not wish someone to dig your body out and give a proper burial?" said Lee with Neji scoffing at him. "Of course, but only because I am a Hyuga of noble blood and not some commoner like him. Now move," said Neji before walking away and ignored the dirty looks from both his teammates. "We can't just leave him here, can we?" said Choji while Shikamaru ran his hand through his hair. "Troublesome. As much as I hate to say this, we have to leave him behind. It's not that I want to do that, but we have to complete our mission and get to the central tower," said Shikamaru while Ino became sad and Choji just scowled though it was aimed more at Team 7 leaving than at his fellow teammate. "We'll tell the Hokage when we get there. He can send Anbu and dig out his body," said Ino knowing the old cage would need to know about this. "Doesn't make it any better. Hinata is going to be crushed by this," said Choji knowing the girl really had it bad for Naruto. "Yeah. This really sucks," said Shikamaru while looking at where Naruto was buried and wished he could do something. "Come on. We have to get to the tower," said Ino sadly while they left. Inside Naruto's mind. Contrary to what everyone thought, Naruto was not dead and was currently buried in the ground while his body went under a rapid change. The Shinigami seal had been stopped in its function in absorbing Kyuubi's chakra but at the same time had stopped restraining Bardock's powers and alterations he along with the fox had set into motion shortly after being sealed into him. The Shinigami seal had restrained all the alterations the two had set up for the boy to one day unleash as they suspected it would when they first started and tried to figure a way around it. The only option before them was to have Naruto come into his mind to tamper with it but the boy had no way of doing it and neither prisoner wanted to try knowing how loyal the boy was to the Hokage. Telling the old man would just cause more harm than good ones and the last thing they wanted was for the seal to be altered in a way that wasn't in their favor. When Naruto tapped into the fox's power back in Wave Country, it allowed the groundwork they had first set up to make the changes possible to form and had he held out a little bit longer in using the Kyuubi's chakra could have unlocked the power of the Saiyan in him. Orochimaru's intervention however had turned out to be the best thing that happened to Naruto and it was finally time to show this world the might of the Saiyan race. This act by the Sannin would allow Bardock to walk through the cage bars, merge his form with the unconscious Naruto, and become a hybrid of sorts in spirit while being a full-blooded Saiyan that would be unmatched. The understanding of energy, the ability to fly, and how to use it many useful ways. "It's time Kyuubi. It's been fun," said Bardock as he had a great time with the vixen and she also enjoyed his company. "But it has Saiyan," said Kyuubi while seeing Bardock leave the bars and stare at the unconscious form of Naruto before he vanished into the boy. "It's funny. This would be the second time I died, at least I'm going out on my terms this time and in a way I'm being reborn again." "Both of us are," said Bardock before his entire form was gone from sight. And in the process covered the dark dank Sora for a mind in a great light and power that shook everything down to its foundation. Real world. The grave of Uzumaki Naruto exploded with power as the boy it belonged to rose from the ground, hovering with silver-colored energy covering his body and the changes being made. Bones broke before mending, tendon, muscles, and ligaments tore all over with the boy's healing soon after. All of Naruto's senses had become enhanced beyond that of an average human and even developed the ability to sense other people's power without the need for a scouter like Bardock had done in the past. Last, but certainly not least in the slightest, Naruto had gained a Saiyan tail and the knowledge behind it. With a mighty yell that shook the ground, Naruto unleashed the power of his newfound heritage and turned the area around him into a wasteland that went on for what seemed like several miles. Looking at himself, Naruto saw his attire, which had been appalling to the eyes, had been practically obliterated not only because of unleashing his power but due to his increase in height, increase in muscle mass, and in general having outgrown them. All he had won was his boxers and even they were feeling a little tight and a new pair would of course be required to obtain. Preferably an adult pair designed for someone with his uniqueness. "This is unreal and yet it feels so natural. Like it's been a part of me since I was born," said Naruto to himself as he flexed his hands while looking at them and then looked at where he sensed the different levels of power heading in one direction. The central tower. As he came to terms with this new change, Naruto also remembered the voices he heard while buried underneath that pile of rubble and how his team left him in his grave. The boy growled in anger at their stupidity and even more at the one boy named Neji for even having the nerve to call him a commoner. Him. A Saiyan. It was wait. How did he know that term? Why did he call himself that? Shaking his head, Naruto decided to hold off on understanding this for later and decided to do a little hunting for what he needed to pass this test. Searching for the nearest power level, Naruto took to the air and flew through the trees before stopping quickly to look down at a clearing where 3 Iwa shinobi had set up camp. "What the hell?" said one Iwa shinobi as he looked up and pointed to Naruto while the other 2 Iwa shinobi jumped away. "Hello maggots. I need your stuff," said Naruto while descending to the ground and the trio of Iwa shinobi just laughed at him. "Or what? Look at you. You have no weapons, you're all alone and in your underwear. You are a pathetic excuse for a shinobi," said the leader of the trio while he along with the other 2 just laughed. "You're right. Well 3 out of 4 anyway. I was a pathetic excuse for a shinobi, but then again my training was minimal due to the lack of instruction by most of my teachers on account of them never really liking me and acting like the arrogant fools they serve. However, the problem with the other 3 can be corrected and solution to that lies with you 3 giving me what I want," said Naruto with the leader of the trio of Iwa shinobi laughing at him. "And what do we get in exchange?" "We don't exactly swing that way," said one of the Iwa genin behind the leader. "Good because I don't either. As for you get in exchange. You get nothing. Absolutely nothing," said Naruto before he vanished and reappeared in front of the leader. With his right arm in the Iwa shinobi's torso. "What are you?" said the Iwa genin as he saw Naruto grin at him and sensed his 2 comrades frozen in fear. "Since you ask me so nicely I'll tell you what I am. I'm a Saiyan warrior. And you are dead," said Naruto before removing his arm from the genin and the Iwa shinobi fell to the ground. "Bastard," said the next Iwa genin who was going through hand signs and was about to unleash an earth jutsu before his head was blown up when hit with a ball of silver energy that splattered his brain all over the place. "You're next," said Naruto with the Iwa shinobi waving his hands and getting on his knees to show he surrendered. Wait. I give up. I have what you need, just don't kill me," said the Iwa genin as he threw over a bag with the scrolls, weapons and some extra clothing he had in the event they were needed. "That's good. Thank you for your generous donation. However, if I let you live, then you will report this to your cage and most likely make me a target in the future." "I can't have that," said Naruto before he shot another blast of energy at the Iwa genin and blew him up. He was on his way. Central Tower several days later. Congratulations to all of you who made it this far and welcome to the next stage of the chunin exams. Normally we would give you all a month to prepare for the finals, but given how there are so many of you, we have to go through preliminary rounds to thin out the ranks and ensure only the best from each village advances to the finals," said the Sandaime Hokage while seeing one person he wished was here to compete in the prelims. Uzumaki Naruto. Team 10 had come to him after his arrival and immediately informed him of what had happened with Team 7 along with how they left the boy buried in the dirt. For all they knew, the boy was alive but just buried underneath that rubble and yet the genin teams there had chosen, some with reluctance, the mission over a comrade. Well, except for Guy's one student who actually tried digging for Naruto but then obeyed the acting squad leader of the team and headed for the tower to complete the exams. Hyuga Hinata could be seen in a state of complete depression as she had come to the conclusion that Naruto had fallen in the forest of death when he wasn't seen among the other genin there and yet strangely enough she glared at Sasuke along with Zaku for their hand in his death. Zaku for the killing and Sasuke's disregard for rescuing Naruto in the off chance he might be alive despite the attack that buried him in the ground. "I'm sorry Naruto-kun. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you how I felt," thought Hinata as she was in an emotional state between sorrow and anger at what had happened to him. "If anyone here feels unable to compete, please raise your hands and leave for a different section of the tower where a team of shinobi will escort you back into the village," said the Hokage as he saw some of the shinobi fidget a little and Kabuto looking to raise his hand. Pathetic. Giving them a chance to back out and even worse is them taking it. "Where is your pride in being the best of your village?" said a new voice as a figure walked into the room and gained the attention and many were shocked to see it was Uzumaki Naruto. Or rather what was the new version of Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was wearing black shinobi pants, a muscle shirt, had gauntlets on both hands he had gotten off of the trio of shinobi from AIM, and steel-toed combat boots from a large genin from Grass Village. He didn't have a kunai or shuriken pouch with him, but rather 2 medium bags in each hand and a fur-like belt wrapped around his waist. On his head was a leaf shinobi headband, but it was pretty beat up and looked ready to fall apart at any second. "Naruto," said the Hokage with the boy smirking at him. "What? You were expecting Kyuubi?" said Naruto with a grin, and many of the adults in the room went pale at the mention of the fox. You're alive, said Sasuke in disbelief while Zaku and his teammates looked like they were seeing a ghost. You sound surprised. Then again, you along with the bitch there left me buried in the ground and didn't even bother trying to dig me out. Had to do it myself, said Naruto while his eyes scanned every genin in the room and gauging their power. You should have stayed there, said Sasuke while sneering at Naruto. And you should have grown a spine when fighting the snake man in the forest of death, instead freezing up while on the brink of wetting yourself, said Naruto with Sasuke now snarling at him. You think you're better than me? I'm an Uchiha. An elite, said Sasuke as he turned to face Naruto while the boy smirked at him and the Uchiha was getting angrier with each passing second. Really? I saw you ready to hand over your scroll for a chance to flee. You had no real guarantee the man would even let you walk away and yet you gambled the second he was ready to tear you apart. I stood my ground. I fought and I made him work for his victory. With you? He barely even tried, said Naruto before turning his gaze to the Hokage and walking towards him, while every genin within 3 feet gave the boy more than enough space. Naruto, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I can't have you participate in the preliminaries due to being late and have you sit on the sidelines, said the Hokage, while Naruto narrowed his eyes at him. Really? Because if the Uchiha had been in my place, you would have let him participate without question, and quite frankly I'm tired of your cowardice, said Naruto, while the Hokage's eyes widened in shock. Watch your mouth, brat, said Ibiki while Naruto's eyes looked at him. Why? Because it's true. Not that it matters. I've more than qualified with the scrolls that I need in this bag, said Naruto as he tossed the one in his right hand over to the Hokage and it spilled open to reveal 16 scrolls with half being heaven with the other half being earth. How did you get so many? Said Enko as she looked from the scrolls on the floor to Naruto and the boy raised another bag. This one slightly stained in blood. How do you think? Said Naruto as he tossed the other bag underhanded to land right next to its brother and the headbands from shinobi from different villages came spilling out of it. Most of them having been stained with the blood of their owners. You killed all these genin? Said the Hokage seeing the boy smirk. Not right away. I asked them nicely for their scrolls. It's not my fault they chose to say no. Now do I qualify to participate or not? Said Naruto with his smirk never leaving him. Hokage-sama, the boy doesn't appear to be unstable, but the fact he's killed so many in such a short time when his records indicate otherwise concerns me, and his sudden look being different is not helping, said Ibiki in a whispered voice to the Hokage. Let him participate, Ibiki. The boy's right. If the Uchiha had been in his place, we would have let him and no one would complain, said the Sandaime, while Naruto just kept on smirking at him. That in line with the others, Gaki, said Ibiki after giving the Hokage a nod. I knew you would see things my way, said Naruto before walking back to the others and standing in a line while standing behind a heavily blushing Hinata. Naruto-kun standing right behind me. Don't faint. Don't faint. Thought Hinata as she felt his powerful aura and it was overwhelming to say the least. I can't believe that's Naruto. He's so different. Not to mention he's kind of hot now. No. No. Do not think like that, thought Tenten as she saw him cross his arms in front of his chest and couldn't help admire his muscled body. That's the brat we first met when coming here to the Leaf. What did he do? Unlock a bloodline or something? Thought Tamari as she had to admit the blonde now had quite the form and was an improvement over the body he had before today. How did he get like that? Did the Kyuubi have a hand in this? Thought all the adults from Konoha while those not from the village were looking at Naruto with curiosity. And so the preliminaries started with names coming up on a hidden screen that would reveal who would be fighting who. Sasuke fought one of Kabuto's teammates, while the glasses-wearing spy of Orochimaru had quit and chose to ignore Naruto's taunting about him being a coward. Of course, Naruto knew the boy was not what he appeared, as the instincts of a Saiyan and the memories of what he recalled from his interactions with Kabuto had made the boy suspect something was off. The Uchiha was victorious in his match, but just barely, and the boy had been taken away by Kakashi to seal away the curse seal that Orochimaru gave him. Next up was the boy Naruto had met earlier wearing makeup and fighting Kabuto's secondary teammate with the ability to bend his body all over the place. The boy from Suna, who went by the name of Kankuro, turned out to be a puppet and the real one was hiding in the white wrappings where everyone else thought the puppet had been. Then 2 shinobi from Sound tried their hands next, each one facing off against Leaf Shinobi, with Zaku losing to Shino and Kin losing to Shikamaru. Ino and Sakura had their match, but it ended with a double KO. But neither girl being the victor while their rivalry put to an end and their friendship restored. Then came Naruto's match against Inuzuka Kiba. Alright. We got luck and faced a weakling. Come on Akamaru, let's win this one. Akamaru. Said Kiba seeing the dog shake his head no and looking afraid of Naruto. Your dog is smart. He knows not to mess with someone higher up on the food chain, said Naruto, as he easily floated up and landed in the arena below, while shocking just about everyone seeing him do it. Shut up. Just because you know a trick or two doesn't make you better than me, said Kiba as he leaped off the rail and landed a few feet from Naruto. Oh, I know a lot more than just a trick or two, Kiba. You have no idea what I know, said Naruto as he unwrapped his tail from his waist and shocked the hell out of the people around him further when they saw it was in fact part of him. What the hell is that? Said Kiba, seeing the tail, and it was making a lot of people aside from himself very nervous. Do you need glasses? It's my tail. You got a problem with it? Said Naruto, seeing how freaked out the boy was. Hell yeah, I got a problem with it. Humans don't have tails, Naruto. I'm pretty sure that was covered in our biology classes at the academy, said Kiba, seeing Naruto let out a chuckle. Then I guess I'm no longer human. Perhaps I'm something more. Said Naruto as he grinned further and his tail was moving wildly behind him. Something more? You're a freak of nature, Naruto. That is what you are. Said Kiba, seeing Naruto scowl at him. I like the tail, said Hinata to herself, but let out and squeak when Naruto turned to look at her with a raised eyebrow and was surprised he heard her. Thanks, Hinata-chan. At least I know there is at least one person in Konoha that likes all of the different parts of me, said Naruto, making the girl blush further since she had seen every part of him with her eyes at one point during the written part of the exams with her eyes since she had used them to cheat and had seen that part of him down there. Look at that blush. She's done something naughty. Such a bad girl. Maybe I should try corrupting her under Kuro-chan's nose, thought Anko, as she had an idea on how to do that, and it involved Hinata looking at Naruto with those all-seeing eyes. Hey. Focus on me and not her, said Kiba angrily while Naruto just smirked. Why? She's much better looking than you. Smells better too. Incidentally, when was the last you took a bath or shower? Said Naruto while Hinata fainted with a full-on blush at hearing how he liked the sight and smell of her body. Kurenai scowled at Naruto while Anko was laughing her ass off. Shut up. You think you're so great, but you're just a weak wannabe shinobi who can't even perform a simple clone and failed the academy 3 times because of it, said Kiba with a grin on his face, while Naruto's face became one with anger. Probably because the teachers knew my output of energy was so high no form of control would allow me to perform one properly. Instead of teaching me an alternative, they felt it necessary to keep such information out of my reach and silently laugh at my failures. Of course, it's much better than yours since they only let you pass so they wouldn't have to smell you for another year and spray for fleas every week, said Naruto, while Kiba growled at him. Oh, you are so dead. Let's get this fight started, said Kiba as he charged towards Naruto with the intent of taking his head off, and his aim was true. Had Naruto not moved his head to the right, kneed Kiba right the gut with enough force to send him flying back and hitting the wall with enough velocity that it collapsed upon impact. You missed and I win. Next. Said Naruto before he floated back up to the railing and sat down on the edge of it. Impressive display of power, Naruto-san, said Shino while his bugs were going crazy inside his body and telling him the boy's power was insane. Thanks, Shino. Do you feel any kind of anger at me for knocking your teammate out? Said Naruto, seeing Shino shake his head no. Kiba was fighting an opponent he couldn't win against and dug a deep hole for himself by insulting you in order to compensate for his own feelings of fear, said Shino with Naruto nodding. Too much pride in the belief your strong caused one to not see the truth right in front of us. It's not healthy, said Naruto while he looked at the screen and heard the gasp from Hinata at seeing the names on it. Hyuga Hinata vs Hyuga Nichi. No. Not that, thought Hinata as she looked from the screen to her cousin and he was smirking at her. It's time to put Hinata-sama in her place and show her crush the difference between us, thought Nichi as he went to the arena floor, ignoring Guy's words of warning to not make this personal and got ready for his fight with his cousin. Do your best, Hinata, said Shino, seeing Hinata look at him, then Kurenai, who nodded in agreement, and then Naruto giving her a thumbs up with a smirk on his face. I will, said Hinata as she made her way down and faced Nichi. Do you think she can win? Said Asuma while walking over to Kurenai. She's got confidence issues, but when push comes to shove, I'm hoping Hinata can rise above this and show her true potential, said Kurenai as she tried to help the girl, but it was hard considering Hinata's father and the Hyuga clan in general were not what you would call a positive influence. Quite the opposite actually. You should give up, Hinata-sama. The chunin exams is not a place for one so spoiled like yourself. You have a duty to be the heiress of the Hyuga clan. Just give up and live a life without burdens aside from childbirth, said Nichi, while getting many glares from those in the room, with the majority of them being female. You don't say that. I'm N not SS spoiled. I'm H here to P prove I H have changed, said Hinata, seeing her cousin snarl with his eye active. Changed? You're stuttering. Your eyes move left and right with uncertainty. You will never change, Hinata-sama. Fate cannot be changed. It will forever be your destiny to be weak," said Neji, seeing Hinata shivering at his harsh words. Crunch. "Hey Hyuga. The one with long hair," said Naruto, called from above them after putting his fist through the railing. "What do you want, commoner?" said Neji while turning around to stare at Naruto. "First, if you call me commoner one more time, I'm going to rip your skull open using your hair and then rip out that tiny organ you call a brain. Second, don't take the coward's way out in making her submit by intimidation and through words no less. Such a way is a coward's way," said Naruto, seeing Neji looking ready to spit fire from his eyes if he had the ability. "No one asked you, fool," said Neji while finding his eyes were hurting from using his eyes while in Naruto's direction. "Hinata, ignore your idiot cousin and fight him to the very end. You want to prove to everyone that you have changed. That's how you do it. All your strength. All your power. Everything you've got. Do not submit," said Naruto while Hinata looked up at him in wonder and then back at Neji with a fire in her eyes that wasn't there before. "I'm ready, Neji. Let's fight," said Hinata as she activated her eyes and got ready to do battle with her cousin. "So that's how it is, Hinata-sama. You look at him, hear his inspiring words, and all of a sudden you have a spine. Well, it's time to break it and break you of this newfound strength right in front of him," thought Neji as he got into his gentle fist stance and it was clear as day that the battle was on. And sadly Hinata lost. Still, Hinata had done well holding her own against Neji, who had better training, more confidence, knew things that she did not, and was aiming to kill the Hyuga girl. Hinata used her skills to disable her opponents. It wasn't in her heart to fight, much less kill her own blood, despite that person being a total asshole at the moment. Neji, however, did have it in his heart though, and proved it when he moved in for the kill when Hinata continued to rise to fight against him. Despite her injuries, Hinata endured his words, his assault, and used some truth-filled words of her own to hit a very sore spot in his heart to provoke the attempt of killing the Hyuga girl. Even then, Hinata stood her ground, ready to face the end without fear, knowing she had given her all and not afraid to die with that fact seen by everyone today. However, just because Neji had aimed to kill, it didn't mean the Hyuga would succeed in hitting his target as 3 Jounin intercepted him and prevented the kill. Neji did not like their intervention, stating they were only protecting the main family from shame of losing one of its members, but Guy had shaken his head no when his student looked at him and pointed to where Hinata had fallen after being unable to stand. Naruto was kneeling beside Hinata, his right index finger caressing her face as blood was leaking out of her mouth and was looking back at him. Hinata knew that if this was her time, then it would be a time where she had shown courage, had shown it right in front of Naruto, and the boy she wanted to notice her was noticing her. "Did I do well?" said Hinata while enjoying the feeling of Naruto touch. "Extremely. Without a doubt you've changed and for the better. Stay on this course and become the warrior I know you can be, Hinata-chan," said Naruto, seeing the girl's smile increase even when the medics took her away, while the Uzumaki made a mental note to visit her in the future. "You should just ignore her. She's a loser. Just like you. Don't think because you beat a shinobi from a clan doesn't make you better than what you already are. A loser will be a loser no matter what. Fate is fate," said Neji while watching Naruto watch Hinata until the girl was out of sight and in an instant, no one could track the Uzumaki was right in his face. "Care to repeat that again, little man," said Naruto in a deadly voice, his eyes staring right at Neji, filled with energy and power that made a shiver run up the Hyuga's spine. "Naruto," said Asuma in a warning tone, knowing that if the boy did anything, he would be disqualified and thus make Neji even happier. Along with a lot of other people in the village that didn't want him to advance. "I said a loser will be a loser no matter what. Fate is fate," said Neji, though there was less conviction in his voice and a hint of fear. "No matter what, huh? Fate is fate. Well, you better pray to whatever form fate takes and pray that in the chunin exam finals that one of us is not facing the other. For if does come down to that, I'm going to show you just what I can do. You think that win over Kiba was fluke? It wasn't. I wanted to get that match over with because I couldn't stand the sight of him and most of the people in this room that cater to the Uchiha's every whim or desire. Sasuke thinks he's untouchable because of his bloodline. You think similar yet slightly different thoughts because of your bloodline being that of a Hyuga and thus are protected politically with friends in high places. However, in the chunin exam finals, you will not be protected and I will show you a fury that no human being has ever before witnessed. Even Kyuubi's power over a decade ago will be tame compared to me and you will know what it means to fear this so-called loser after I kick your ass," said Naruto and let out a growl that was not human before walking away from the stunned Hyuga. The next match came in the form of Tenten fighting Temari from Suna, with both girls becoming excited despite everything that had just happened. Tenten had unleashed her weapons on Temari, but the Suna Kunoichi was too much for the Leaf Kunoichi and the wind jutsu she used to knock away the projectile weapons. Damari then added insult to injury, with her fan being used to hurt tendon in the spinal column, and further reinforced the fact that Suna came to the exams to win. Hurting people was just a bonus for them. This was further proven by Sabaku no Gaara fighting Rock Lee, with the latter fighting with everything he had, and more so when opening almost all of the 8 celestial gates. By this point, Kakashi had come back, missing the fight Naruto had with Kiba, and saw things with his Sharingan eye in order to use what he saw to help train Sasuke. Sadly for Lee, his opponent was a Jinchuriki like Naruto and had more control over his power than Naruto ever did with Kyuubi. Not surprising since Gaara's seal was designed for that purpose and being weak enough for the boy to use his demon's power to control sand in such a deadly manner. It was also made to be the ultimate shield given how Shukaku was the weakest of the 9 and thus had to think, despite being crazy, on how to fight defensively over that of offense means like the other Biju did. "I will not be denied," said Gaara as he commanded his sand to rise and move like a serpent towards Rock Lee trying to crawl away from him. "Yes. Yes, you will be denied," said Naruto as he appeared seemingly out of nowhere, his arm outstretched, hand covered in energy. Less than 6 inches of space was all there was between the orb of power and Gaara's face, with the red-haired boy looking right at the energy in Naruto's hands. What?" said Gaara as he could believe what was in front of him and stared into the blonde's blue eyes burning with power. "I owe him. You kill him. I kill you. Decide," said Naruto coldly while Guy had appeared between the sand and Lee. "Very well. Proctor, I doubt my opponent can continue fighting me and ask you to call the match with me being the victor," said Gaara as he called his sand back to him and the proctor did just that. Tell Lee my debt to him is paid. Out of all the rookies there, he was the only one among them to try and dig me out," said Naruto before he cancelled his attack and saw the Jounin nod in understanding. Honorable warriors pay back their debts. After that, the matches pretty much neared the end as Choji faced Dosu and the latter won by putting the former to sleep using those metal bracers on his arms to emit sound vibrations that attack the sensory part of the brain, responsible for controlling when a person sleeps. With the preliminaries now over, all that remained was to determine who would face who in 1 month's time and in front of the public masses. First match. Uzumaki Naruto vs Hyuga Neji. Second match. Sabaku no Gaara vs Uchiha Sasuke. Third match. Kanuta Dosu vs Nara Shikamaru. Fourth match. Aburam Shino vs Sabaku no Kankuro. Fifth match. Sabaku no Tamari vs winner of fourth match. These are the matches that will take place in 1 month. Train well, said the Sandaime while making a motion for Kakashi to keep Naruto back to answer some questions. But that said, the contestants left with their senseis with the exception of Naruto and Sakura since Kakashi stayed behind while the pink-haired girl left with the others. As for Naruto, he was told by Kakashi to stay and answer some questions the Hokage might have for him. "What do you want?" said Naruto with the Sandaime looking at him with a frown, and so did Kakashi. "Naruto, be more respectful to the Hokage," said Kakashi, since this was a serious matter that could impact Naruto's life in the future. "What respect? I don't respect people who have replaced their warrior spirit with that of a coward's and would play politician," said Naruto seeing the Sandaime's eyes narrow at the accusation. "Naruto," said Kakashi sternly. "Shut up. Don't you dare try to reprimand me, you hypocrite. You think I don't see your actions in favoring the Uchiha since our team was put together? Giving him extra training while I and the pink-haired Uchiha fangirl do chakra control. Have me do the labor of the D-ranked mission while having Sasuke spar with you while using shadow clones to keep us in the dark. Not that training did much good. Sasuke will always be a sniveling little coward no matter what you do," said Naruto, who got a punch to the face for his words and yet was not even affected by it. "Ow. What is your face made out of?" said Kakashi as he tried to fight back the pain in his hand and failed miserably. "Kakashi. Naruto, you have to understand that once the village sees your new appearance over what they know, not to mention the tale, many will assume the Kyuubi was involved and call for your head," said the Sandaime while Naruto's eyes narrowed at him. "That's not exactly shocking news, old man. Besides, you make it sound like I should care what they think and do my best to appease the masses by being their punching bag," said Naruto while the Sandaime looked grim. "You should care about them, Naruto. They are your people," said the Sandaime while Naruto just laughed that echoed throughout the large room. "My people? That's where you're wrong, old man. They are not my people. If they were my people like you claim, I wouldn't be hated, I wouldn't be shunned, beaten, and brought near death so early on in my childhood. They are certainly not my people," said Naruto coldly while the Sandaime looked at Kakashi, who nodded in understanding and put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I'm sorry, Naruto. I'm ordering your powers sealed away and your mind wiped of all these events." Within a month's time, you will be brought back to Konoha looking like you did before, and we will tell the other rookies that your change they witnessed here was the result of Orochimaru's doing that had dangerous after effects if left unchecked," said the Sandame, with Naruto's eyes narrowing at him. "What makes you think I'll let you do all that? What even gives you the right to do it in the first place?" said Naruto while the Sandame's face became a scowl. "I am the Hokage of Konoha and you are one of its shinobi. My subordinate. My word is law and you will respect my decision," said the Sandame in a more authoritative voice. "You are a disgrace to your position, old man. You are not worthy of the hat and robes you wear," said Naruto before moving quickly and disabling Kakashi with quick spin strike to the Jounin's ribs with his elbow. Fast. But not fast enough, thought Sandame, as he moved quickly for a man of his age and aimed for a pressure spot on the back of Naruto's neck. Only for Naruto to vanish from his spot and the Sandame found himself unable to find him. Until Naruto laughed, which caused the Sandame Hokage to look up and saw the boy hovering over him with arms crossed with a cruel smile on his face. "You must think I'm an idiot in just standing still and letting you do all that stuff to me. Fool. Make no mistake, I will be at the chunin exam finals, I will fight Hyuga Neji, and when I do his life will end tragically," said Naruto before he was covered in a silver-like fire that was his energy, shooting up through the tower, out of the tower, into the sky, and then to Kami knows where. "What do we do, Hokage-sama?" said Kakashi seeing the Sandame Hokage sigh at this defeat. "We must inform the councils and clan heads of this. I must also contact Jiraiya and tell him what has happened," said the Sandame Hokage with Kakashi nodding. "You did what was right, Hokage-sama," said Kakashi, while the Sandame shook his head in affirmative no. "No. What I did was betray my late successor and his wife. I betrayed all they stood for and tainted their noble intentions in saving the village. Soon Konoha will pay the price for its stupidity," said the Hokage before walking away and leaving Kakashi to his own thoughts on the matter. This would not end well. Kakashi was sure of it. Naruto's apartment. Anko was at Naruto's apartment, people spying something flying to it that could only be Naruto, and decided to get some answers from the Gaki before reporting to the Sandame. After what happened in the central tower, the old man would want answers and willing to bet the third Hokage would give anything at the moment to know what happened to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. So with that thought in hand, Anko was at Naruto's door and gave a polite knock before counting to 10 when kicking down the door would be the next choice of action. However, before that even happened, the door opened and Naruto opened the door with a raised eyebrow. "What do you want?" said Naruto though he had an idea. "Hey Gaki. Can I come in or would you prefer talking to me in hall where everyone can hear us?" said Anko seeing Naruto shrug and move away from the door to let her in. "Come right on in Anko-san. I have nothing to hide," said Naruto while Anko did just that. "How do you know my name?" said Anko with a question mark before Naruto shut the door. "You told us after the written test, remember? Went through a window. Cut my cheek," said Naruto while Anko having that ooh look on her face. "Right. Now I remember," said Anko now being sheepish. "So why are you here?" "At the request of the old monkey to find out more about me by any means necessary," said Naruto seeing Anko shrug. "More or less. Though I'm doing this more for my own curiosity since what I saw before the Forest of Death is completely different from the stud I'm looking at now," said Anko with a gleam in her eyes. "So you're curious, huh? Just how are you planning to get information out of me?" said Naruto as he saw Anko smirk at him and remove her trench coat to let her bust behind the fishnet shirt barely conceal what the secondary bit of clothing did on a slightly better scale. "I have my ways," said Anko as she saw Naruto smirk further with his own eyes getting a gleam too. "Then bring it," said Naruto while Kyuubi inside of him was giggling perversely and while unable to send her chakra into the seal to strengthen his power further, she could increase his pheromone output. Without further delay, Anko pounced on Naruto and the young Uzumaki met the special Jounin's challenge with joy. Many hours later. The door to Naruto's apartment opened and a shaky Anko stumbled out. Her clothing was disheveled, the skirt ridden up on one side, and the special Jounin's hair looked like it had been in a hurricane. She had a glazed expression on her face, which was a mixture of satisfaction and tiredness that the Kunoichi of the Leaf had not experienced in a long time. Walking out slightly behind her was Naruto, who was wearing black pants and shirtless at the moment with his tail waving about. "Looks like I won, Anko-chan. Remember, what happens in my home stays in my homes, and that goes for everything we did," said Naruto seeing the woman nod slowly before giving the special Jounin a tap to her butt with his tail, and she just mumbled to herself while walking home. "Yes, Naruto-sama. What? Stays. Happens. Home. Rest," said Anko as she made her way back to her own apartment and ran into Kurenai. "Anko? What in Kami's name happened to you?" "You look like you've just had a training session with Mido guy in the middle of a sugar rush," said Kurenai as she saw her friend walking like a zombie towards her home and Anko letting out a giggle in the process. "Good. Happened. Stays. Everything. Nap time," said Anko as she entered her apartment, shut the door and then used the last of her strength to collapse on the bed. She may not have gotten the information the Hokage needed, but damn did he know how to work her body and Anko would need to have her energy tank refilled soon. All she needed was 2 weeks worth of rest, food, and lots of water due to dehydration would be settling in soon. Oh yeah. Anko was drained. In his apartment, Naruto was grinning like a madman and looking at the black panties the woman left behind in her dazed-like state. "There is more ways to achieving conquest than just fighting," said Naruto, while Kyuubi just giggled like a crazy woman. "Just you wait, Naruto-kun. When I get free, we're going to shake the planet and it won't be from fighting each other," said Kyuubi as she was in her more human form now and cackling like a mad woman on a mission. Chapter 2 Saiyan Impressions. Naruto didn't really understand how he was able to fly at first, but just knew from what his mind was telling him to do on instinct and the sensation felt so right. Like he was a bird, freed from its cage and spread his wings to fly high into the sky. He was flying all over the place, from one country to the next, zooming at such an intense speed that by the time the sonic boom he made over one country was heard, Naruto was on the other side of the world and making more of them. The more he focused on what he could do with his newfound abilities, the boy felt more memories that were not his coming out and had nearly overwhelmed him. However, Naruto fought for control, focusing on doing things one step at a time and just learning not to blow himself up with what he knew from instinct alone. He figured that a whole month of learning how to control his powers for the chunin exam finals was a blessing in disguise and would be able to get ready for his fight with Hyuga Neji. Suddenly stopping in his training in the ways of flight, the blonde remembered what Neji had done, what the boy had said about losers always being losers and saying fate is fate. It just was total bullshit. If what Neji said had ever been remotely true, which was not, then Naruto wouldn't even be a shinobi right now and be a dead nobody just like everyone wished since his birth. Well, almost everyone. Hinata seemed to liked him for him. The words made Naruto angry. He was so damn angry at that prick, his power had begun to rise, his power forming into the form of silver energy, a storm was forming overhead and even the ground began to shake. Letting out a yell that echoed throughout possibly half the world hearing it, Naruto unleashed his power and feeling a need to vent it out on something worth hurting. Looking down, he just so happened to be over water country, which he also realized that this particular country held the mist village where Zabuza and Haku were from. The memory of the two and their deaths brought even more pain to his heart. Naruto had hated what had become of the two before their encounter with him, having to sleep with one eye open, never knowing if you'll be killed at any moment by Hunter Nin from Mist, and all for not fighting for a sick cage with a distaste for bloodlines. The mere thought of the Mizukage no doubt laughing with at the news of Zabuza and Haku's death made the Saiyan blood in him boil to untold heights. Those two deserved better than what they got from that bastard of a cage, and Naruto had every intention of seeing to it the Mizukage understood that painfully. Flying downward, Naruto crashed down into the middle of a forest region not far from the mist village and sensed for power levels in the general area. Finding quite a few of them not far from his position, Naruto sensed they were in the middle of a fight from the spiking and the sense of bloodlust slowly making its way to him. Curious, the blonde made his way to the fighting, seeing a red-haired woman fighting a group of masked shinobi, which Naruto knew from his own experiences in the Leaf to be Anbu, and had every intention of killing this woman. "Pathetic," said Naruto walking towards the group and everyone was now looking at him. "Who are you?" said one of the Anbu. "Do you serve the Mizukage?" said Naruto, seeing the Anbu look at each other while the red-haired woman narrowed her eyes. "Why do you want to know, brat?" said another Anbu. "Because I want to rip his heart out and stuff it down his throat," said Naruto coldly while the Anbu tensed at hearing it. "You have a bloodline, don't you? I can practically sense it off of you," said the Anbu with the captain insignia on his right arm. "Judging by the hate-filled tone in your voice, you do work for the Mizukage and believe in exterminating people with bloodlines. If there is one thing I truly despise, it is people like you who hate others for being different and think they should be slain," said Naruto while covering his body in silver energy, making the Anbu back up in fear. "Monster," said the Mist Anbu captain. "No. Not a monster. Saiyan," said Naruto before he quickly vanished and in a flash had obliterated the Anbu before turning to face the shocked redhead. "Who are you?" said the woman in shock, awe and fear. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto and like you I've got a beef with the Mizukage that needs to be settled," said Naruto, seeing the woman nod slightly and accept the hand he offered. Though mere seconds later, the two were surrounded by another group of shinobi, but they were different from the ones Naruto just killed and seemed to ready to defend the woman rather than kill her. With a simple motion of the woman's hand, the group stood down and lowered their weapons, though they were clearly on alert should that command change. My name is Terumi Mei. I lead the resistance against the Mizukage and his supporters for some time now. He's been trying to kill me for months after learning I had not one, but two bloodlines, and won't tolerate someone like me being alive to oppose him, said Mei, as she saw Naruto was impressed, and she had to admit the gaki was quite the looker for someone his age. She could only imagine what he'd look like at just a few more years. Then you just gained yourself a powerful ally. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, said Naruto seeing the woman smile at him. Before we continue this conversation further Naruto-san, I'm curious as to what is your reason for wanting the Mizukage dead, said Mei, while Naruto just seemed to lose all of their playfulness. It's because of the Mizukage that two people I respected had to leave Mist. Perhaps you heard of one of them. Momochi's Abusa, said Naruto with the group instantly having weapons at the ready, and Mei was surprised to hear that name. And how is Abusa and his rumored subordinate? Said Mei carefully while her men now looked ready to fight him. They're both dead. Haku went down protecting Zabuza from Hada Kakashi's attack and Zabuza from his injuries before killing the backstabber that was his employer, said Naruto before he told Mei what happened, how the two had been his enemies until the end, and how it was unfair for them to die. I see. At least Zabuza got his revenge for the girl. But why do you blame the Mizukage for their deaths? Said Mei seeing Naruto shake his head. You misunderstand. I don't blame the Mizukage for their deaths. I blame the Mizukage for doing everything that led to them leaving Mist and making their lives miserable since then. Running constantly from Hunter Nin, never truly being able to breathe for letting down your guard even once could bring about death, and living off the scrapes life throws just to get by. They both deserved better than that, said Naruto seeing Mei nod and once again command her forces to stand down. I knew Zabuza well before he left. In fact, he could have sold me out, but chose not to, and for that I've done my best to misdirect Mist Hunter Nin until recently. The Mizukage caught on and decided to dig around before learning what he needed to send them after me, said Mei, seeing Naruto nod and then grin. Well, this is your lucky day, Terumi Mei. Not only does the Mizukage fail to kill you, but he now has to deal with me, and I am not in the mood to be merciful, said Naruto coldly at the end. I believe you, but you also need to know he's a Jinchuriki and has the incredible power of the three tails at his command, said Mei, while Naruto raised an eyebrow at her. The three tails. That's it. Said Naruto with Mei looking surprised by how casually he brushed off the fact the Mizukage was a Jinchuriki. This is no time to be arrogant, Naruto-san. The Mizukage is powerful enough without the demon's power, but with its demonic chakra under his command, said Mei, but was silenced when Naruto unleashed his power, and it kept rising higher than the three tails ever was when free. The three tails is nothing compared to me, nor is its jailer. You want the fighting to end and bring stability to this land? I can do that easily, said Naruto, as the ground shook, the sky flashed with lightning, and scaring the crap out of those around him. And just as quickly, the power he generated left, and all was calm again. And in exchange for this generous action, said Mei having regained her voice after a short few minutes. Nothing much right now. Just come see the chunin exams in Konoha in 1 month's time and make it known you're the new Mizukage. I can tell you're going to be a much better one than the current jerk, so that's all I really want right now. The Kage, who will look out for everyone, and not just the majority since the majority is not always right, said Naruto with Mei nodding and knew that she knew he meant more to that than he was willing to admit. I can do that, said Mei, as she saw him smirk at her, and the redhead had to admit she was a bit turned on. Are your forces remotely ready for a fight? Said Naruto seeing Mei think over the size of her forces. Most of them are ready, but we're lacking the power to fight off the Mizukage, and the number of those loyal to him is still higher than our own, said Mei with Naruto's smirk growing. Are your troops ready, Terumi Mei? The strength you need has just arrived and you're looking at him, said Naruto before turning around and heading for Mist. Terumi-sama, are you sure it's wise to trust this kid? I know he's powerful, but we hardly know anything about him and the risk is very high, said one of her shinobi. I know it is, but we can't delay any further and Yugura needs to fall now. If we don't act, the chance to kill him will not happen for a few more years, and even then such a fight will have its drawbacks. The only reason we won't be invaded by rival villages is due to being our country being a continent unto itself, and it takes time for them to get here with any sizable force. This kid will do the hard work for us, and from I felt of his own power, I honestly think we can win with him on our side, said Mei, as she saw the man nod and had to agree that the boy's power was something he had never felt before. I'll get our forces ready, said the shinobi before heading off to get the others. In Mist Village. Yugura was feeling uneasy, as he had felt that power somewhere in Water Country rise up out of the blue, and it was something out of this world to him. To make matters worse, he could feel it coming this way and wondered if it was another Biju seeking to expand its territory. It was possibly, but this power felt different. Very primal, yet focused on just heading in the direction of the village and did not change course. Prepare the village's defenses at once, said Yugura as he saw his Anbu nod and leave to carry out his orders. No sooner had the mist Anbu left, an explosion was heard at the gate and the power the Mizukage had felt earlier was back. The sound of fighting was heard in the village as his shinobi were fighting whatever had made its way here, and when Yugura arrived on the scene, he was surprised to see it at just one person. The boy with a monkey tail from what he saw with it being used to smack one of his shinobi through a building. How could a boy have so much power inside of him? Was he a Jinchuriki too? Sent by his masters to crush the mist because so many losses over the years had weakened them significantly? Maybe. Possibly. Judging from your robes, you're the current Mizukage and the team responsible for the suffering of the people in this country with bloodlines, said Naruto with Yugura nodding his head. I am. Who are you? Are you a Jinchuriki? A weapon sent by your cage to kill me and conquer a mist? Said Yugura while Naruto just laughed. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and yes I am a Jinchuriki just like you. I'm also from the leaf, but the Hokage didn't send me, and no I am not weapon, said Naruto seeing the man's eyes widen slightly. Konoha. From what I know, they defeated Kyuubi, and since you admitted that you are a Jinchuriki, then that means the Kyuubi is sealed inside your body, concluded Yugura, as it made sense given how the Kyuubi attacked all those years ago, and that would be sealed by the Yondaime Hokage. Correct. Since then, I've been through a whole bunch of crap because of idiotic people that think they know better, and that I should be put beneath them. Not for long though, said Naruto grinning at Yugura. So you intend to unleash Kyuubi's power upon me, said Yugura with Naruto laughing once more. Are you serious? Can't you tell? This isn't Kyuubi's chakra you're feeling right now. This is my power. Said Naruto as he let out a mighty yell and shot his power up making the ground shake around them. This power. It's beyond anything I've ever felt before. What is he? Thought Yugura as he gathered up his own power plus the Three Tails' own and tried to match it against Naruto. Sadly for Yugura it wasn't enough. Do you think that demon in your gut is going to save you Mizukage? Nothing you have at your disposal can stop me from getting justice for the lives you ruined. Said Naruto as he saw the faces of Zabuza, Haku, and even Terumi Mei in his mind suffering at Yugura's hands. So what if I did ruin lives like you claim? Those people deserve to die for what they are. They're freaks of nature with powers that do not belong in this world, said Yugura as he brought out his weapon of choice and attacked with a downward slash. Naruto caught the weapon, broke it, and hit Yugura with an open palm strike that sent the three-tailed Jinchuriki back. A large group of mist shinobi converged on Naruto at that point, but his power was too much for them and obliterated each one from existence. Those that weren't blown away were taken down by Naruto's fighting style, which was in reality Bardock's way of fighting and moving on instincts. He broke bones, busted heads, and slammed others into nearby buildings. Water style. Water dragon jutsu. Said Yugura as he unleashed a powerful water jutsu at Naruto and it crashed into the boy dead on. Thanks. Well I don't mind a shower, I'd prefer to have one in the normal fashion or go to the hot springs, said Naruto as he had yet to move from his spot after the jutsu hit him and looked unimpressed by the attack. Die. Said Yugura as he unleashed the Three Tails chakra at Naruto who dodged to the demonic chakra and instead charged his fellow Jinchuriki head on. You first. Said Naruto as he hit Yugura in the face with his knee, followed by a punch that slammed the Mizukage into the ground and then finally finishing up by taking to the air before with a blast of energy that obliterate the entire area around them. Descending to the ground, Naruto looked at his handiwork, seeing that the village had taken a bit of a beating from the blast, but nothing a little elbow grease and hard work wouldn't cure when rebuilding what was destroyed. Letting out sigh, Naruto saw many of the mist shinobi that he hadn't hurt or killed backing away from him in fear of facing such a powerful foe. You did it, said Mei as she appeared with her forces and saw the devastation Naruto had brought down on Mist. I aim to deliver Terumi-san, said Naruto as he bowed his head to her and begins to walk out of the village. I'll see you at the chunin exams, said Mei seeing the Saiyan stop and turn his head to smile at her. I'll look for you there. If by chance I'm not, assume it's anything foul play was involved and don't believe anything the Sandaime tells you Mizukage-sama, said Naruto as he shot up into the air and shocking many of the mist shinobi while taking off with a streak of silver energy being left behind. Such a strong boy. One day, he'll be an even stronger man and when that happens I will make him mine, said Mei as she could see it now and the blush that formed on her face matched the hair on her head. Graduation's on being the Mizukage madam, said one of Mei's loyal subordinates by the name of Ao. Thank you Ao, but now is not the time for celebration as we have a lot of work to do and only a month to get it done before the chunin exam finals come around, said Mei, while Ao frowned in confusion. If I may Terumi-sama, Miss doesn't have any of its shinobi participating in chunin exam finals, so there is no need for you to attend, and said Ao, but an icy stare from Mei made him stop and felt a shiver run up his spine. Our ally, who is responsible for succeeding ahead of schedule, is participating in them in 1 month. I want my position in being the new Mizukage of Mist to be strong enough by then that I can leave the village to see him, and if it's not I'll just have Naruto-kun kill you. Said Mei before her face goes from cold to sweet with a smile and goes skipping off to Mizukage Tower, while Ao can only sweat drop. Wait. She said the kid was participating in the chunin exam finals. Then the kid is ranked a genin. Oh Kami. Thought Ao, as his Byakugan eye hidden behind the eye patch had felt that power. And the realization that the adult version of Naruto would be even more powerful brought icy shiver up the man's spine, knowing how this could play out for him with Mei clearly having thoughts about the boy that would one day become a man. An idea of what Ao would face should he fail to complete his leader's orders appeared in his mind. Ao's pictured outcome. Forgive me for missing the chunin exam finals Naruto-kun. Ao team dragged his feet and I was held back by my duties as the new Mizukage on account of his incompetence, cried Mei into the blonde's shoulder and Naruto comforting her. I understand Mei-chan. I don't blame you. I blame your subordinate and I don't like to see such a beautiful woman cry because of his stupidity, said Naruto as he comforted her and glared at a frightened Ao. Really? You don't hate me? Said Mei with Naruto smiling at her. No. Of course not Mei-chan. Now your subordinate on the other hand, do you have a suitable replacement in the event of his death? Said Naruto while Ao began to sweat even more out of fear. Yes. I had to in the event he died during the rebellion against Yugura, said Mei before she got a kiss on the forehead by Naruto and the blonde turned his attention to Ao. That's all I needed to hear. Don't worry though Mei-chan, I'll help you until your new subordinate is broken in and who knows maybe we can spend time in your office after hours. Said Naruto while shooting energy at Ao, who was doing his best to dodge the explosive orbs and crying out for mercy. Oh Naruto-kun, you say the sweetest things. Said Mei as she held onto his left arm and watched him blow up Ao while gushing as he did it. End of pictured outcome. I have work to do, said Ao as he moved like the Kyuubi and the Shinigami were both after him. Konoha Hospital. A few days later. Naruto landed on the hospital roof as he felt that landing in front of the building on the ground where the public would see him wasn't the smartest move and decided that the stealthy approach and seeing Hinata was best. Of course, he forgot that the floor Hinata was where the more severe patients rested had doctors and nurses running around to get the injured back on the road to recovery. Once they saw him, they screamed in fear and took off to find a shinobi to report his whereabouts so they could take him away. Upon reaching Hinata's room, he stopped to hear voices, or rather what was a voice of a man in the room putting down the girl that had fought so bravely against her own cousin. Silently opening the door, Naruto saw Hyuga Hiashi berating his eldest daughter for losing to a branch family member, and that such an act was unforgivable in the eyes of the clan. Hiashi was so into his tirade about how Hinata was a failure, how she would watch her cousin kill the demon brat and remove the demonic taint that had plagued Konoha for too long. Are you listening to me, Hinata? Or are you too deep in your own little world involving that boy? Said Hiashi with his eyes active as he stared at Hinata, who was in no real condition to face him or his harsh words that demanded she crumple like a cheap folding chair being sat on by a sumo wrestler. Do you enjoy putting your own daughter down, Hyuga? Said Naruto with Hiashi quickly spinning around to see him while Hinata gasped at seeing him. You. Get out of here before I show you just how lethal a Hyuga can be, said Hiashi while fighting back the pain his eyes felt when seeing the boy's energy shining brightly in front of him. Spare me the theatrics, Hyuga head. You have neither the right nor the power to end me with your skills. I can see those eyes of yours are straining to even look at me when active. What makes you think they can help land a lethal blow at close range when they can barely help you look at me now? Said Naruto while Hiashi looked livid despite the fact his words were true. I'll kill you, boy. I do not need my eyes to destroy your heart with my gentle fist, said Hiashi while Naruto smirked at him. I'm sure you'd love to try, said Naruto while motioning Hiashi to come at him. Aye boy. Said Hiashi as he had to deactivate his eyes when moving forward and aimed for Naruto's heart. However, Naruto was neither in the mood to deal with such a fool, nor did he want to at the moment and simply dodged the strike before breaking the man's arm. He then kicked the man literally in the ass and sent Hiashi flying into the wall to leave a body imprint before the man fell onto the floor. I have a better idea, tell your dumbest nephew he's next and to pray I'm in a good mood when we fight. Said Naruto before shutting the door on him and turning to face Hinata. I'm sorry, said Hinata as she buried herself more under the covers and looked away from him. You're sorry? For what? Said Naruto walking over to her and sat down in a nearby chair after pulling it over to him. For being weak in front of you while my father was here. I wanted to say something. I really did, but I don't, said Hinata as she looked away from him, ashamed of her own shy nature and not sticking up for herself. I know. It just proves how strong you were fighting Niji. If your father treated you like this most of your life, then it's no wonder you've had confidence issues and hesitant to do anything. You're always afraid to do anything knowing your father will most likely hate any decision you make, regardless of whether it's right or wrong, said Naruto, seeing the Hyuga girl nod, since that was true regarding her father. Nothing she ever did pleased him. She could be named Hokage and he would put her down in some manner. I don't feel very strong, said Hinata with Naruto just smiling at her. Physically, you're as you should be and recovering from your injuries. Mentally, you should feel a bit better and a weight being lifted off your shoulders, said Naruto, while Hinata looked confused. I should? Said Hinata with confusion. Of course. You fought and held your ground. Almost everyone expected you to give up after hearing Niji's words. Yet you stayed, said Naruto, seeing Hinata shake her head. I only stayed because of what you said to me, explained Hinata with Naruto smirking at her. Sometimes we need helpful push in the right direction to get started on the path we wish to take. There is no shame in that. I experienced it with Iruka-sensei and him pushing me in the right direction and believing in myself, said Naruto, seeing Hinata was shocked at hearing such words from him. Even you? Said Hinata with shock showing on her face while Naruto smiled. Even me? Everyone gets a push in the right direction now and then. The Yondaime didn't just become the Hokage overnight. He probably had a foot kick him in the ass multiple times before even becoming a tenth of what he was, said Naruto, seeing Hinata nod since she knew that was true. I just wish my father understood that, said Hinata while Naruto shook his head. I doubt he will, Hinata-chan. Just rest and train and getting stronger when you're feeling better. You got the stuff needed to become a great warrior. All you need to do is believe in yourself and you'll be halfway there, said Naruto before turning around to leave the room. Do you believe in me? Said Hinata, seeing Naruto look back at her. If I didn't believe in you, Hinata-chan, I wouldn't be here telling you otherwise, said Naruto before leaving the blushing girl to her own thoughts. Naruto? Said Kakashi with Guy also beside him on his way to see Lee. What do you want, Cyclops? I'm going to see Lee now, said Naruto before turning to face the man currently glaring at him. The Hokage demands your presence now. Said Kakashi, making the boy know this was not up for discussion. The Hokage had convened the councils and clan heads within the hour of Naruto's act of rebellion against the third. Stated how the boy won his match, which no one even thought was possible given Naruto's level of skill they knew he possessed from his years in being a genin, and Kakashi's own reports on the blonde's progress in the team training they had together. Not that Kakashi ever trained him in anything with the exception of tree walking, which wasn't much in itself due to the Jounin's favoritism and bias against the young Uzumaki. Still, this sudden change in behavior, physical appearance, and the tail he apparently sported brought about quite the uproar. The Ashi wasn't happy either, as he had heard how Naruto had inspired Hinata to fight Niji, and the Hyuga clan head did not appreciate it one bit. Hinata had been weak, spineless, and an overall failure when it came to the standards of the clan. If Hinata couldn't fight her branch family member for a cousin without such clear hesitation beforehand, then she was in less and should just be banded as one for the end result, making the main family appear weak. It could inspire the branch family to rise up, cage bird seal be damned, and overthrow the current hierarchical structure the Hyuga clan was founded on from the start. The Sandaime told them Naruto fully intended to participate in the chunin exams to fight Niji, which made the various governing bodies with the exception of most of the clan heads pound their fists in anger and demand boy be denied. If it's someone else, even one from another village, just to show the brat that they would go so far in denying him the right to advance by giving the opportunity to someone else not from the leaf. The Sandaime told them such an act would get the attention of the clientele and the many daimyos from other lands, asking too many questions on the changes to the roster. While they could keep things under wraps for a time, daimyos had resources of their own that could easily find out the truth and thus make things worse for the village. For now, it was better to have Naruto participate with the potential clients thinking he was a loyal leaf shinobi and then handle the boy afterwards with a cover story they could sell. Oh, now the Hokage gains a spine. Did the councils give it back to him for this one day only? Said Naruto, seeing Kakashi's eye narrow at him. That's enough, Naruto. Come with me. You can visit Lee later, said Kakashi, about to put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Touch me and you lose an arm. That is not a feat. It's a promise. Said Naruto coldly while Kakashi hesitated for a second and clearly gauging just how real the threat really was. The Hokage wants you in his office in 5 minutes, Naruto. Don't be late, said Kakashi while Naruto just scoffed. No promises, master of tardiness, said Naruto walking away to Lee's room with Guy beside him. Lee was grateful for your intervention when I spoke to him last, Naruto-san, said Guy with Naruto nodding and reaching Lee's room. I owed him for actually giving a damn. He tried to dig me out while others just walked away. I don't know what you think of me, guy, but I am a warrior of honor, and when I owe a debt to someone it gets paid in full, said Naruto, seeing Guy nod. If that is how you feel, then I have a proposition to make after speaking with Lee, and will benefit for your match against Neji, said Guy, seeing Naruto look back at him with a raised eyebrow. Isn't it a conflict of interest? Said Naruto, seeing Guy shake his head no. Neji may be my student, but I am not allowed to teach him Taijutsu, and I know only so much about his bloodline that his clan allows in order to give some kind of training. He spars against Lee, but Neji doesn't understand that Lee is able to hold his own against him with his handicap of not being able to use ninjutsu or jinjutsu due to the lack of chakra reserves, said Guy, with Naruto nodding in understanding. Well, regardless of your reasons for helping me with my match with Neji, I'll accept it since Taijutsu is something I'd like to work on and just need to know when to show up at what time, said Naruto, as he felt his fighting ability was great, but something honed in the ways of close combat and refined with finesse would be better than the brawling one he was using now. His Saiyan instincts once more telling him that. Lee. My youthful student, you have a visitor and soon to be a fellow student learning the flames of youth. Said Guy while Naruto held back the tick mark on his forehead. As long as there is no spandex involved in the training and no touching the hair. Said Naruto, with his soon-to-be teacher reluctantly agree to that. It's good to know there will be another student of Guy-sensei aside from myself. Once I am healed, I would be honored to be your sparring partner and trusted friend, said Lee, as he extended his hand and Naruto took it without hesitation. Same here, Lee. Rest up because you're going to need it when we do Godat, said Naruto as he shook the boy's hand and left the room. He was about to find the nearest window to fly to the Hokage Tower when a noise caught his attention and the blonde Saiyan decided to investigate. Kicking down the room door, Naruto saw the girl Tsuchi-kin being taken away by three masked shinobi with the kanji for root on them and turned to face him in realization they had been caught. It's the demon, said one masked shinobi holding Kin's right shoulder. Take him. We'll bring the demon to the rendezvous point and to Danzo-sama he can be conditioning to be his weapon, said the leader of the group with captain rank on his sleeve. Before the shinobi in the room could carry out the order, Naruto was upon them, kneeing one root shinobi in the gut that sent him through a wall, crushing another after punching the masked face with his fist, and finally stared at the leader of the trio. The man had a kunai to Kin's neck as she struggled with what strength her body possessed, but it was difficult due to the sedatives given earlier, and the blade to her throat wasn't helping much. I'm almost late to an appointment with the Hokage, so I'm feeling merciful right now. Drop the girl and walk away. If you don't, you die. Said Naruto while forming a silver ball of energy in his hand. I'll take my chances and leave with her, said the root captain as he glanced at the window behind him and knew the timing for leaping out would need to be just right. Their funeral, said Naruto before moving too fast for the root captain to see, grabbed the hand with the kunai in it, watched with amusement while the fool struggled against his strength and slowly moved the limb away from Kin's neck. That's impossible. Said the root captain before crying out in pain when his arm was viciously broken and kicked into the wall while Kin fell to the floor. According to who? Said Naruto before blasting the root shinobi to pieces and turned to walk away. Wait. Please don't leave me, said Kin, as she didn't have the strength to fight right now and was afraid to be left here all alone. Naruto stopped and turned to face the frightened girl. His Saiyan side told him to forget her as she was weak and should fend for herself. However, Naruto ignored it while he came to terms with what the girl was asking of him and considered his options. On one hand, he could leave Kin here to be picked up by Sound or whoever those root shinobi worked for, with the most likely fact being he'd never see her again. But on the other hand, in terms of principles, if he did that, then Naruto would be no better than the bastard that screwed him over in life, and a Saiyan was not about to become like them. He'd kick their ass and most like kill them, but never stoop to their pathetic level of abandonment of another person when they needed it. His Saiyan pride wouldn't let him be like them. Picking up the girl, he went to the window and took to the air before making a quick stop at his apartment to put Kin on his bed. Finding some of his old yet clean orange-colored clothes since Kin was wearing only a hospital gown, he threw them onto the bed for her to wear and headed for the window once more. When you've recovered enough to move, wear that since it's all I've got right now and don't try leaving since it will only get the attention of those that tried to take you earlier. When I come back, you will tell me everything I want to know, and if you lie if only once to me I'll throw you out in the street to be taken by more would-be kidnappers. Do you understand? Said Naruto, seeing Kin nod weakly as she knew her life was in his hands and to betray him would mean facing the Saiyan's wrath. Yes, Naruto-sama, said Kin as she clearly remembered him from the chunin exam preliminaries, coming in with the scrolls and headbands of the shinobi that he found in the Forest of Death after her team's encounter with his own. Naruto will do for now. I wouldn't eat anything in the fridge. I haven't been here for about a week, so if you're remotely hungry, then I suggest you suck it up and wait for my return with something edible," said Naruto before going out the window and into the sky without another word. Hokage Tower at the moment. "He's late. I knew Kakashi should have just taken the boy and brought him here," said Kaharu, seeing Homura nod in agreement. "After what he did to Hiashi at the hospital, the boy should be imprisoned or executed for his actions against the clan head," said Homura, as he had heard from Kakashi how Hiashi had to be hospitalized with a broken arm and a concussion to go with the various bruises that had formed on his body from hitting the wall. "Considering how Hiashi treated his own daughter, I'd say the team deserved the beating and the Uzumaki Gaki deserves a medal," said Tsume, as she was proud of Naruto for doing what he did and stood up for the shy Hyuga girl. "How can you say that, Tsume? Your own son was beaten by the demon," said someone on the civilian council. "My son knew the risks in fighting someone. Besides, Kiba needed a kick in the ass since he was getting a tad arrogant and I won't stand for that," said Tsume, as she had spoken to Kiba about who he lost to and that being arrogant had played a part in his defeat. "I heard Uzumaki-san has changed quite a bit. I'm curious to see if the rumors are in fact true," said Shibi, as he had heard from his son that Naruto was very much different than before and that Shino's own insects were terrified of the power the boy had displayed. "His demon powers are manifesting and the seal is weakening. Jiraiya-sama, we order you fix the seal and lock away the boy's powers after his arrival," said Homura as he saw Jiraiya leaning against the wall and deep in thought. "Why don't we wait until the Gaki gets here before doing anything? From what I've heard, the Gaki has a tail like a monkey instead of a fox's like I was expecting when told of the changes, and if approached in a more diplomatic way could help us find out the changes to his body," said Jiraiya, seeing the Sandaime Hokage's two former teammates grumble at hearing his opinion. He also wasn't pleased with how the village treated Naruto. Truth was, Jiraiya wanted to take the boy with him, teach Naruto like Minato wanted, but the Sandaime had been so damn insistent that Gaki stay here in the leaf and instill a sense of loyalty. Of course, the Sannin had no idea that the method used when agreeing with his former sensei involved barbaric means of abuse and downright cruelty that would have the boy's parents come out of the Shinigami's belly to kick the ass of every moron that had a hand in this grand scheme of theirs. "Smart move. Clearly you have more brains than they do," said Naruto as he flew into the room via the open window and glared at the idiots that were discussing his future without his say in the matter. "As usual. That's him. No wonder my son lost," thought Tsume as she saw the Gaki had gone from orange jumpsuit run to full-blown Prima-like alpha material and had to make a mental note to inform Hana, so she approached the boy with caution due to her never even being around an alpha male. The last thing Tsume needed was her daughter seeking the blonde Uzumaki out at night and then getting knocked up soon after. "Curious. According to my hive, Naruto-sen's power holds no traces of Kyuubi and yet it is still making them nervous," thought Shibi as he saw how calm and in control Naruto was despite this overwhelming power flowing through him. "You will show us respect, demon," said Homura while Naruto scoffed. "And by what right do you deserve respect from me?" said Naruto while seeing the fools the Hokage surrounded himself with seething. "We are your betters. You will show us respect and submit like a whipped dog should," said Kaharu was while ignoring the growl from Tsume while Naruto just laughed. "My betters? And here I thought you fools didn't have a sense humor. You all sit there, behind this table, hands clasped in front of you on it, glaring at me with your beady hate-filled eyes and basically saying submit to our demands because I sit here. You think that your position gives you power over me? The kind of so-called power you possess is not the kind of power needed to even make me nod my head in your direction. It's not even power," said Naruto seeing the councils pounding their fist in anger, glaring at him further and saw the Hokage looking to Jiraiya for help. Okay. Calm down before you all break a blood vessel. Naruto, the Sandaime had me come here because he feels the seal holding Kyuubi is weakening and is influencing you in some way. Being a seal master and the sensei of the Yondaime Hokage, I need to inspect it to ensure that's not the case," said Jiraiya while Naruto now turned to face him. "You taught the Yondaime Hokage? You were his sensei?" said Naruto curiously while taking a step toward the Sannin. "What? Didn't the Sandaime tell you? I'm not only his sensei, I'm your godfather too," said Jiraiya with a smile, but it left when the Sandaime winced, shaking his head and the look on Naruto's face looked like it could blow up a mountain. "My godfather?" said Naruto as he took another step towards the now nervous man and the Sannin looked again at the Hokage currently looking away. "Why yeah. I was supposed to take care of you after everything with Kyuubi, but the third Hokage had convinced me that you'd be safer under his watch and protection from any potential enemies," said Jiraiya while Naruto let out a deep growl of anger before turning his head and glared at the Hokage. "Did the old fool tell you of my life in the village growing up? Did the fool tell you of the abuse I had to endure under his watch?" said Naruto seeing the old Hokage not looking him in the eyes. Just recently, said Jiraiya while he saw Naruto gauging his words for a lie. And what is your opinion of how he handled things? Do you approve? Said Naruto as he saw Jiraiya look at the Sandaime, then back at him and then giving his form a once-over. You look healthy. Said Jiraiya while trying to lighten the mood. He had no part in that. Even I don't fully understand the sudden change I went through, said Naruto as he kept seeing memories of different places, worlds even with different kinds of beings, some strong and some weak fighting him. It's the fox. The fox is breaking free. Seal his power away Jiraiya. Said Homura as he stood up and pointed an accusing finger at Naruto like he had just confessed to killing off the entire Uchiha clan instead of Itachi. Sit down Homura. There is none of the Kyuubi's chakra coming out of him. It's almost like it's being blocked. Said Jiraiya as he knew given the nature of the Yondaime's seal, there should be some kind of small output of the fox's demonic power and thus prove the seal was doing its job. Blocked? Impossible. How can you possibly say that? He is the Kyuubi. Said a member of the civilian council. Oh, so you, a simple civilian with no experience in the shinobi or the sealing arts in general, knows more about the seal the Yondaime used than me. A genuine seal master and the sensei of the Yondaime Hokage. Please do share your infinite wisdom about the seal on my godson and its purpose, said Jiraiya seeing the man open his mouth to say something, but found he couldn't and just shut up before sitting down. So that's what Snake did, said Naruto more to himself than Jiraiya. Snake? You mean Orochimaru? Said Jiraiya with some growing concern knowing that while sealing wasn't up there on Orochimaru's list of prodigal skills, the man did know enough to mess with functioning ones to the point where they did little or none of the things its creators designed them to do. Yeah. He hits me hard in the gut with his hand and I'm soon out of it. Next thing I know when waking up is someone buried me alive and my so-called teammates left me for dead in the forest of death. So much camaraderie and bonding as a team, isn't that right you old fool? Said Naruto seeing the Sandaime look away while Jiraiya glared at the Hokage for not telling him that part. Naruto, I need to see what Orochimaru did to your seal and fix it before what he did possibly becomes harmful to your body, said Jiraiya seeing Naruto gauging him for lies and deceit on his part. I suppose. But know that if you are trying to do something that will take away what has been a blessing to me, then a curse I'm going to beat you with in less than an inch of your life, said Naruto before he sat down in a nearby chair and raised his shirt so Jiraiya could carefully inspect it. That's what he did. Orochimaru blocked off access and basically disrupted your chakra from functioning properly, said Jiraiya, but still found it interesting that such a seal overlapping the original was not working like it was intended and the boy changing into what he was now. Remove it, said Naruto simply knowing the sooner it was off the better. No. The Kyuubi's power must be denied to him. That is the only way the brat can stay in the chunin exams. Said Homura as he glared at the boy who glared back and let out a primal growl. We will compromise, said the Sandaime at last while Naruto glared at him. And by compromise, you mean trying to screw me over again. Said Naruto while the Hokage just ignored him. Jiraiya will train the boy for 1 month, but he will not undo Orochimaru's seal over the Yondaime's own and will check up on it every week leading up to the finals to ensure that nothing is wrong with it, said the Sandaime, seeing the people in the room nod at the idea, while thinking without the Kyuubi's healing abilities, the boy could be badly injured. I have a better idea. Jiraiya fixes my seal or I rip your heart out, said Naruto while he glared at the Sandaime. You border on treason Naruto, said the Sandaime with a warning tone in his voice. No more than you did with me when you told everyone about the Kyuubi and then tell them to do something they had no intention of doing in regards to keeping silent about the fox. How many people did you actually punish for breaking that law old man? From the way the councils here call me names that reference to the fox sealed in my gut, not to mention the people in the village themselves, I think you don't enforce it at all and just let them get what they want at my expense, said Naruto before lowering his shirt and getting off the chair despite Jiraiya's protest. That's not true Naruto, said the Sandaime, but the boy quickly grabbed the table that in a sense connected all the various branches of Konoha's government together and threw it up through the ceiling like it was ball filled with air. Such strength. It rivals Tsunade. But Naruto doesn't know how to do that and the seal Orochimaru made should be disrupting chakra output, so control needed to use that level of strength is impossible in a genin, thought Jiraiya seeing it with his own 2 eyes. Is it? The people in the village hated me for over a decade, yet when I asked why they did after less than half of that time had gone by, you told me it was something that wasn't my fault and that they would stop if given time. Well old man they didn't stop. Not once. No doubt I have you to thank for that in the first place and telling me not to fight back or else bad things would happen from my actions, said Naruto while the third Hokage scowled. You didn't. Said Jiraiya looking at the Hokage who didn't meet either one in the eye and yet his eyes did not show guilt. Oh, but he did. I may not have understood the reason why he told me that back then, but now I do understand, and it's taking all my willpower right now not to obliterate his body," said Naruto before turning around and walking away. "And where do you think you're going, demon?" said Kaharu in a stern voice of a woman that didn't like seeing someone turn away from her like she was insignificant. "I don't have time for your decrepit bullshit or the politics behind it and seeking to control me like some animal on a leash. I'm going to train for the chunin exams, and I'm going to kick the crap out of everyone I face there. It doesn't matter if I'm facing Hyuga Neji, Uchiha Sasuke, Sabaku no Gaara, his father, the Hokage, or even the Yondaime back from the grave. Do you know why that is? Because I just don't give a flying fuck," said Naruto before flexing his power and causing half the room to be destroyed by it before flying off. If Jiraiya was serious about fixing his seal, then the Sannin would do it and not complain after Naruto gave him a good beating for his involuntary neglect. After all, the man could have visited every so often regardless of what the Sandaime told him. "This is an outrage. We order you to seal up the boy's power and then throw him away in prison cell to rot until we can safely extract the Kyuubi to put in a much more obedient vessel," said Kaharu, while Jiraiya shook his head. "You idiots just don't get it. Only in Uzumaki can hold Kyuubi's power, and even then it has to be an infant with a seal master of my level or the Yondaimes even to make such a thing happen. I like living, so me sacrificing my soul to the Shinigami is completely out of the question. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to find my godson and fix his seal so it can go back to absorbing Kyuubi's chakra again," said Jiraiya as he leaped out the window and ignored the shouts of the fools there trying to command him. Naruto's apartment sometime later. Kin had finally gained complete control of her body as it was no longer sluggish from the sedatives those so-called doctors gave before the root shinobi came in and tried to take her away. They had been talking about taking her to someone named Danzo, who was going to help his business partner in acquiring Kin for something important and involved the chunin exam finals. Kin didn't know what it was, but the only person she could remotely think of that would want her for anything was Orochimaru, and even then the Sannin no doubt had plans for doing something nasty. "I'm not his pawn anymore. I won't be used by him like that," thought Kin as she sensed someone powerful headed her way and quickly hid in the shadows of the room just in case it was an enemy. "You can come out, Kin. I brought some food," said Naruto as he took out an apple from the bag in his hand and tossed it to the girl. "So how'd it go with whatever it was you were doing after dropping me off?" said Kin as she ate the apple quickly and was tossed another before wolfing that one down too. "Neither bad nor good. Now why was it those guys tried to kidnap you from the hospital? And don't lie to me. I've had enough people do that already and I'm not in the mood for someone else doing it to me again," said Naruto, seeing Kin nod before he put the bag of food down on his kitchen table. "I don't know why they needed me. Just that they served someone named Danzo. I think the man is someone in your village and he's pretty high up to have shinobi working for him," said Kin while Naruto scowled at the name. "I think I know who he is. I'll have to ask a source who knows Konoha history. What else do you know?" said Naruto with Kin thinking things over in her head. "I know they were going to meet up with Danzo and his business partner. I think they were referring to Orochimaru," said Kin while not finishing the sentence. "Since you served him in terms of entering the chunin exams for a mission of getting through the forest of death that would allow him set his plans in motion. Whatever he's planning, the chunin exam finals will be his target and you were meant to be used as a sacrificial pawn to make it happen. Danzo will have to come up with an excuse for not successfully acquiring you, and if he can't, a sacrifice of his own will be made to ensure their combined plan succeeds," said Naruto with Kin now looking at him with a raised eyebrow. "And how do you know that?" said Kin curiously. "Because it's what someone does to prevent a partnership from falling apart when you do not want it to just yet. It's strategy pure and simple. You have a partner in crime, he gives and takes while you do the same in return. Working together to achieve the same goal and taking down a village, but the thing about partnerships is they don't last very long when the objective they work together in completing is a success. One will turn on the other so the other doesn't share. The other will expect it, succeed in preventing the betrayal from being a success, or the betrayal will succeed with the victor getting all the spoils," said Naruto with Kin looking surprised by this. "And how do you know that?" said Kin with more curiosity in her voice with a hint of skepticism. "Because I've been around these people my whole life. They betrayed the Yondaime by trying to control me through abuse and the power sealed within me. They'll betray each other within and without of the village for that single yet potent word that brings about a person's desires. Power," said Naruto before moving to the wall by his window, put his hand through it and pulled what he caught from the other side. Which was Jiraiya of the Sannin and the man's neck in his hand. Wait. I'm on your side, Gaki," said Jiraiya while feeling like he was caught in the vice grip of his old teammate. "You have funny way of showing it by spying from outside and I'm not laughing," said Naruto with his grip on the Sannin's throat not lessening in the slightest. "Sorry. It's part of my profession. I'm a spy master and like all things when it comes to spying, we have to stay out of sight, said Jiraiya, while pleading with his eyes for Naruto to let him go. You're also supposed to be my godfather, and that is supposed to takes priority over just about everything else you may be skilled in. Or did the thought of checking up on me ever cross your mind? Said Naruto, seeing Jiraiya wince at his words. I was busy with my spy network during that time. Sensei wanted me to protect Konoha from outside threats and gave me reports on your activities in the village. I thought they were accurate when they stated you were happy, said Jiraiya, while feeling the grip on his throat get tighter. Perhaps you should focus your spies inward at the village itself. I take it from what you heard outside that there is a conspiracy aimed at taking down the leaf. Said Naruto with a Sannin finally being freed from his grip and gasping for air. Yeah. The man you heard, the girl here named Danzo, is the Sandame's former rival for the position and commanded the Root Shinobi division that worked from the shadows before Sensei ordered it to be disbanded. He feared them being loyal to Danzo over that of himself and wanted them reintegrated back in Konoha's general shinobi populace. To many, Danzo is considered a diehard patriot of the Leaf and believes any potential threat to Konoha must be killed without hesitation, said Jiraiya, while Naruto scoffed. And you believe this man would give up such a thing? Being the leader of an army like that is not a power one tends to surrender lightly, and I think the man is spiteful enough to keep it working in secret long enough to get what he wants, said Naruto, and Jiraiya just nodded in agreement. But why work with Orochimaru? Said Kin, as she knew the man hated Konoha, and if this Danzo character was Konoha's most loyal shinobi, why join his supposed opposite? Because Danzo's views of Konoha are the opposite of the Sandame's own. Danzo wants cold, emotionless, and fanatically loyal shinobi of the village with everyone's rights that aren't to be limited, so they are only a little higher up than that of slaves, said Jiraiya. As he knew that the man's ideas of what shinobi should be had been a major influence on the second Hokage's decision to make Sarutobi Hiruzen his successor, and it had eaten at the old Warhawk ever since then. Personally, I don't care for either Danzo or the Sandame Hokage right now. What I do care about is kicking the crap out of Hyuga Neji and anyone else that stands in my way. So are you going to help me? Or are you going to stand in my way? Said Naruto, looking Jiraiya dead in the eyes while Kin watched the staring contest between them. I'm not your enemy, Naruto. Rest assured, I will help out any way I can, and fixing your seal being the start of it, said Jiraiya, seeing Naruto nod. Let's do this outside. I have a feeling what you intend to do is going to cause a lot of damage to the surrounding area, and while I don't like this particular dump, it's all I've got for now, said Naruto, seeing Jiraiya frown at that. Forget this place, Naruto. I know a place where you can stay and she can join us. I'll need to know everything about Sound and what Orochimaru's planning, said Jiraiya, while the blonde just nodded. Fine, said Naruto, as he picked up Kin and then surprisingly Jiraiya before taking to the air for the secret location needed to keep away from unfriendly eyes. The latter of the two passengers screaming like a little girl. Naruto's apartment number 2. Kurenai had heard Naruto was back in the village and had seen Hinata before throwing her good-for-nothing father out of the girl's room, well in need one himself. She had seen Anko earlier too, looking like she had just tortured Orochimaru to death in a room where time and space had no meaning for either one. Though the appearance Anko was now sporting when Kurenai saw her made the Jounin wonder what the special Jounin had been up to before then. Knocking on the door of Naruto's apartment, she was greeted to the sight of the boy being shirtless, hair wet, and in a towel to indicate he had just got out of the shower. Kurenai for her part had to fight the blush that was no doubt appeared and regain some form of control over the brain that controlled talking. Can I help you, Kurenai-san? Said Naruto, as he had been drying off when she knocked and saw her fidgeting slightly with a red face that reminded him of Hinata. Said Kurenai, as she saw Naruto's body was well muscled and her mind was currently trying to reboot the section of the brain that she was trying to use right now with little success. That's not exactly a sentence, said Naruto, while Kurenai's mind that handled morality decided to intervene and kick the talking part of the woman's system to get it working again. Sorry Naruto-san, it's just your current state of clothing being non-existent has that effect on women, said Kurenai before mentally slapping herself at saying that while Naruto just smirked. It's alright. You kind of caught me at a moment between getting dressed, said Naruto, while Kurenai just nodded in her head and thinking the same thing. May I come in, Naruto? I need to talk to you about Hinata and what you did for her when she fought her cousin, said Kurenai as she saw the young Saiyan nod and let her enter after moving away from the door. I don't mind. Come right on in, said Naruto before shutting the door and locking it. Hours later. Kurenai stumbled out of Naruto's apartment, looking ragged, disheveled, and all around, looking like she went through an intense training session like no other. Her dress was in a state of threatening to come off, the Jounin's hair looked like it had been hit by a lightning jutsu, and drool coming out of the woman's mouth with a limp when walking. Much like Anko had done. Kurenai? "What happened to you?" said Asuma, seeing the state his secret girlfriend was in right now before the woman just stopped and turned to look at him for a second. "It's over between us. I'm seeing someone else now," said Kurenai before walking in her zombie-like state away from a shocked Asuma and found herself at a bench where an equally exhausted Anko had been sitting. "You too, huh?" said Anko, seeing Kurenai look at her. "How did you know?" said Kurenai, seeing Anko give her a weak smile. "He was getting ready to take a shower right before I left," said Anko, while Kurenai just looked at her with bugged-out eyes. "Well, that explains it. Should we tell anyone about this?" said Kurenai, seeing Anko raise an eyebrow at her. "And ruin the best sex of our lives," said Anko, seeing Kurenai nod. "Good point. Share," said Kurenai, with Anko nodding and grinning. "Share," said Anko while shaking the woman's hand in agreement. Naruto's apartment. "And now Anko's panties won't be so lonely," said Naruto as he put Kurenai's in the drawer with Anko's and went to take another shower. "Cure this seal. I want out. Let me out so I can fuck him," cried Kyuubi as she howled in fury at being denied and vowed to make him hers the moment she was out of his stomach. Chapter 3 Saiyan Workout. When Naruto landed at the training area, Jiraiya was able to guide him to while blocking out the man screaming. He put Kin down gently and threw the Saiyan onto the ground before putting a finger in his ear. Looking around after doing that, the blonde Saiyan was able to assess the area Jiraiya wanted to work with on and see it was designed for privacy when training. It was perfect. "You didn't have thrown me down so hard, Gaki," said Jiraiya while rubbing his butt to get the soreness out. "And you didn't have to scream like a little girl halfway here," said Naruto, while Kin just giggled since the man had screamed like a little girl. "No respect," said Jiraiya, while Naruto removed his upper clothing so they could look at the seal, and Kin had to look away with a blush on her face. "Welcome to my world. Now fix this damn thing," said Naruto as he was going to make Jiraiya work off 12 years of neglect, and it was starting right now. "Okay. Okay. Don't be so impatient," said Jiraiya as he gave Orochimaru's handiwork over the Yondames and then removed it with the 5 elemental unseal. "Wow. That feels better. Like a dam was destroyed and my power is overflowing in me," said Naruto as he felt the Kyuubi's power surging through him and seeing the Saiyan leap back with Kin also keeping a fair distance. "So you're not going to explode?" said Jiraiya while seeing the boy being covered in energy, and it was concerning to say the least. "Give me a moment. This is a lot of power I'm feeling right now," said Naruto as he was fighting for control and the ground shook with storm clouds forming in the sky above. "Oh crap. Run the hell," said Jiraiya as he grabbed Kin and ran since the tall tale signs of destruction of an area were upon them. With a loud roar, Naruto covered the area energy and yet still fought for control over what felt like another presence trying to control him. However, the boy wouldn't let this power go to his head and called upon all his willpower to not let this consume him. As he retracted the power back into his body, Naruto felt a part of him swelling with pride over being able to do it, and the Uzumaki wondered if that was Kyuubi or something else responsible for the changes in his life. Before he could think anything further about it, Naruto collapsed onto the ground. Naruto's mindscape. "Well, that was certainly interesting," said Naruto as he got off the ground, looked around his current location and found himself seeing it was a bit technological for his tastes. Where the hell was he? And why did it seem partially familiar? "This way," said a demonic voice that Naruto decided to follow and walk through the path in front of him with doors automatically opening for him until reaching the source of the one calling him. "Why am I not surprised," said Naruto, seeing the form of Kyuubi sitting on a throne of sorts but behind a cell with energy bars, and it was clear from the joy on the vixen's face that she was happy to see him. "Come now. I can't all the credit. I want to, but sadly I can't, and is it really so bad seeing your mind like this? Before it was so filled ankle high with water. Right now the place looks great, it's much more inviting and a much better improvement," said Kyuubi as she saw Naruto looking around and took the time to admire his form. "How exactly did this happen?" said Naruto as he kept the surprise of Kyuubi being female hidden, and yet it wasn't much of a surprise from the start. It was like he already knew. "You haven't figured it out. I know when Bardock merged with you to complete all the things we did to alter your genetic makeup to become a Saiyan, but it seems the seal that the Saiyan put on the Yondames also prevented a full merging, and only now you're feeling a true sense of familiarity," said Kyuubi as she saw him look at her now and had his full attention. "Bardock? Yes. That name sounds familiar," said Naruto as he could feel more of the memories of the man invade his mind, showing him the greatness of the Saiyan race and how they had become great warriors in their own right. And then finally how they were wiped out by being afraid of their potential. "So you know now how they fell. Such a shame really. Despite them being arrogant, they had such potential in their dimension to be great. Bardock only learned what they could become too little too late, and by the time it was too late, well, I don't need to tell you how that turned out, said Kyuubi, as she saw Naruto frown at her and knew to tread carefully with him. That sudden surge of power I let out. It was you, wasn't it? Said Naruto, seeing Kyuubi nod since there was no point in denying it. Guilty. Though in all honesty, I kind of had to do that since you were backed up with so much of my chakra, not to mention Bardock's own baggage after the merging, that if I didn't, well, you would have exploded and most likely taken a large chunk out of this world that would have made it die a slow painful death. You're welcome, by the way, said Kyuubi as she was sharpening her nails now and looking at him with the intention of hearing the thank you from his mouth. What happens now? Said Naruto, while Kyuubi now had a look of anger on her face for being denied the simple 2 words she wanted from him. What happens now is I break out of this seal, out of your body, and then tear your monkey ass to pieces. Said Kyuubi as she launched chakra through the seal at Naruto, but he batted it away and flexed his own power back at her. Don't bother making threats you can't keep, Kyuubi. We both know this seal won't let you go all out, and even if you did, your power is still no match for mine, said Naruto with Kyuubi gritting her teeth. Insolent monkey. The only reason I help you out is because it is a necessity. Given the chance, I'd kill you and all those that actually saw you for you. I'd know just where to start too, and it would be that Hyuga girl who is always blushing whenever she's in your presence. I'd make her my little slave girl first. Make her a regular carpet licker too before whoring her off to perverts that have thing for the submissive slaves. Then go after that raiment stand place where they actually fed you, instead of ripping you off with spoiled food or kicking you out with a nearly chopped off limb from a butcher's knife. Let's see, I could boil the man in a raiment stew, then have the girl make it before she serves it to me, and then serves me below the waist like a good little pet she'll make, said Kyuubi, but before she could even think further on the matter, the vixen was hit by a lot of killer intent and felt Naruto's power rise him. Speak about them or anyone else I know are worth protecting, Kyuubi, and I swear on my Saiyan blood, the last thing you see me do is rip out all 9 of your tails before hanging you with them, said Naruto, as he wanted Kyuubi to know just how serious the threat was to her being by his hands and was not going to tolerate the demonic fox's actions. Fine. Fine. Though I wouldn't make such threats if you were more respectful to me for unblocking your system once the Sannin fixed what the other one did, said Kyuubi, though in truth her threats were in fact empty since she did like her container, and to see him filled with such passion when it came to protection what he loved was quite a turn on. I don't give such things out to demon foxes who made my life miserable for her stupid attack on the village and then does one thing positive in my life to combat the negative, said Naruto, seeing Kyuubi look sad when hearing that. I deserve that. Truth is, I never wanted to attack your village in the first place, or be sealed into you either for that matter. If you must know, the blame for my attack was in fact by the hands of Uchiha Madara and his damn Sharingan eyes, said Kyuubi with Naruto narrowing his eyes at her. And I should believe you, why? Said Naruto with his arms crossed in front of him. I'll show you everything from that night you were born. Your mother was so happy before then. Kushina would go on and on about having a boy. Minato thought she was going to have a girl, but Kushina knew from her own motherly instincts building up inside, and if there is one thing I've learned in my long life, is to never bet against an Uzumaki no matter what, said Kyuubi, as she showed him that day, leading into the night. And how Madara had come for them while somehow finding out about the location of where the pregnancy was going to happen, with Kushina's seal weakening during that time. My father was the Yondaime Hokage. Said Naruto in disbelief while the Kyuubi nodded and watching the memory unfold even when Madara used his eyes on her. Yes. Both married, of course, so you're not a bastard child like those adults kept telling you all those years ago. Though to be honest, when looking back at this memory, I do wonder just who sold out your family and allowed Madara to do what he did. There are only a small group of people who knew what was going to happen and they were all high up in the government food chain. Now, if I were the Yondaime, those Anbu would have been chosen at the last minute to ensure no one got information out of them. Now, aside from the Yondaime, Kushina, and the Anbu in the room, who else would know? Said Kyuubi as she replayed the memories of she had while in Kushina up to how things happened several times and saw Naruto watching the feed intently. The Sandaime, said Naruto coldly with narrowed eyes while they stared at the old woman with his mother during the pregnancy while around the Anbu. Huh? Said Kyuubi while watching what he was watching. That old woman. I've seen her in a picture with the Sandaime. I asked about her once and the old man had an angry look on his face for the tiniest of seconds before telling me it was his wife. How she died around the time I was born, said Naruto seeing Kyuubi raise an eyebrow at him. But why would he sell out your parents like that? Not to mention his own wife. Said Kyuubi as she saw him trying to figure it out and knew that he knew the theory didn't make sense. I'm not sure he did, but I can damn well bet he blames me, or you rather, for the death of his wife. As for the betrayer to my parents, it had to be someone who knew. I need to know about all the people who knew of the location and where my mother intended to be that night, said Naruto before looking at Kyuubi and seeing the vixen nod since she wanted the jerk too. She actually liked Kushina. The woman had spunk for a redhead and human. Well, there is one person you can ask. The Yondaime sensei no doubt checking you over to ensure you're not dead right now, and if I'm trying to take over, said Kyuubi, as she knew the Sannin was probably having a fit or heart attack over what he just saw the boy do. Then I'll go ask him. Oh, and Kyuubi? Said Naruto seeing the vixen look him dead in the eyes. Yes. Said Kyuubi seeing the boy smile at her. Thank you, said Naruto before vanishing from his mindscape to the real world. Damn, he's going to be a looker in a few years. Just about every girl his age, around it, and even slightly older women are going to want a piece of him. It's not fair, said Kyuubi, as she wanted to throw her own temper tantrum at being locked away, maybe even destroy a mountain here or a country there depending on what her line of sight aimed was locked on at the moment. She'd find a way out, and when Kyuubi did, the world was going to be rocking from her actions with Naruto within seconds of being free. Real world. Naruto. Naruto. Wake up, you dumb blonde baka. Said Jiraiya before kicking Naruto in the face and was rewarded with the pain equivalent to feeling of kicking the jagged edge of a mountain barefoot. Not fun. Sorry. I was having a chat with my tenant. She's been most helpful in answering a few of my questions about my life that were kept away from me, said Naruto before looking at Jiraiya hopping around on one foot and cursing him for having a thick skull. What did you learn, Naruto-sama? Said Kin, as she had been awed by his power and how he commanded it to return to him without it brining his mind to insanity. Who my parents were. Who interfered in my mother's pregnancy. And that someone in Konoha sold them out to the team that tried to let Kyuubi free in the first place, said Naruto, while Jiraiya stopped dancing around and looked at him in shock. You know? Said Jiraiya while Naruto glared at him. Yes. Of course, I'm sure it was something you were sure to mention to me, right? Said Naruto with Jiraiya laughing nervously. Oh well, the Sandaime felt you weren't going to learn about that until much later in life and could defend yourself from the enemies your parents made in the last war. Kumo had tried to kidnap your mother, and Iwa is not exactly a place that loves your father like the leaf does, said Jiraiya, while Naruto scoffed. Well, I'm strong enough now. More than enough. Did you know where my mother was going to be when the time came for my birth? Said Naruto seeing Jiraiya nod his head. You did. Tsunade was ordered back to help with the delivery, but she came back too late and the Sandaime lied to her, stating her own living relative on her grandmother's side was dead. The Anbu were last minute. Picked by your father himself. There was the Sandaime Hokage, his wife, Hada Kakashi, and the Shinobi Council, though those two old bats were just given a general area since they were high enough to know just not the actual location due your father not trusting them. It was them, said Naruto seeing Jiraiya frown. What do you mean, Naruto? Said Jiraiya while sensing the boy's anger rising with his power doing the same. I mean they sold my parents out to Uchiha Madara. Said Naruto with Jiraiya looking at him in shock. But he died. Years ago fighting the Shadaime. Surely you can't be serious. Said Jiraiya while the look in Naruto's eyes told him the boy was deadly serious. Kyuubi showed me her memories of the year of my mother's pregnancy and that night when Madara struck. He killed the Anbu and the Sandaime's wife. No doubt that is the reason behind the old bastard's hatred of me. He talks about the village being narrow-minded and that they would let go of their hatred of me one day in future. That old senile bastard's a hypocrite. Said Naruto making a ball of energy and launching it at the nearby forest region. Destroying a large chunk of it in the process. Not to self. Do not anger Naruto to make him throw one of those at me, thought Jiraiya having seen the smoke and dust clear to see the devastation. I'll deal with that Uchiha in due time. Right now, I'll focus on the chunin exam finals and training for them, said Naruto, as he saw Jiraiya nod in agreement, since Madara was so far off right now you'd need a super enhanced Byakugan eyes to see him, and that was if you were lucky. So what do you plan to do for training? Said Jiraiya curiously. I'm going to be training with Midogai in Taijutsu. I want to refine my skills and he's already offered to help. You're going to help too, but in a different way and on a much larger scale, said Naruto seeing Jiraiya raise an eyebrow at him. Me? How? Said Jiraiya pointing at himself. First, you're going to teach me about seals. What they can do, how can they go, and I want to focus on using them for holding things down, said Naruto seeing Jiraiya scratch his head in thought. Holding things down? Like weights? Or do you want to know about gravity seals? Said Jiraiya with that perking Naruto's interest. Gravity seals. I know Midogai and Rock Lee use weights. I want that plus the skill to use gravity seals and how to increase them, said Naruto with Jiraiya shrugging, since there was no point in denying the kid on account natural talent for sealing was in his blood from his mother's side of the family. Sure. Meet me here tomorrow in the afternoon. I'll be digging around for information on who exactly knew of your parents' secret location. I know you suspect the two old crows from the Shinobi Council, but it never hurts to cover all bases, and since I can't trust the old man due to his own reasons for hating you, I'm going to move a bit more discreetly than usual, said Jiraiya seeing Naruto nod. I also need a new place to stay. I refuse to live in that shithole I called a home, even if it does have some kind of sentimental value, said Naruto seeing Jiraiya nod. Fair enough. Follow me. I'll take you to your family home, said Jiraiya, as he along with Naruto and Kin followed him to the Namikaze estates not far from their current location. Nice. Said Naruto with a grin on his face, while Kin looked at it with awe. Yeah. No one has been in it since Kyuubi's attack, so expect things to be a tad dusty, said Jiraiya before leaving the two genin behind to handle things. Thanks a lot you lazy bastard, said Naruto to himself, but Kin heard him and giggled since it was true. I will do the cleaning up, Naruto-sama. It's the least I could do after all you've done for me, said Kin while Naruto looked at her in surprise. You don't have to be my maid, Kin. I can take care of myself, said Naruto, though she saw him shake her head. It's not that, Naruto-sama. It's just I don't want to continue being dead weight while I'm living in your home and doing absolutely nothing, said Kin, as she had felt like dead weight and needed to do something other than just mooch off of him. Fair enough. Though I will be assisting in the cleaning too. It's a big house and it's too much for one person to do. Shadow clone jutsu. Said Naruto, as he created a small army and Kin was shocked to see so many copies of him. Things were looking up for the two of them. But Mito guy sometime later. Are you sure you don't want to wear this, Naruto-san? Said guy holding green spandex that Naruto could only assume was in his size. How that was even possible Naruto didn't know. Personally he didn't want to know. I'm sure. Trust me, said Naruto while trying to be polite as possible while holding back the desire to obliterate the thing in the Jounin's hand. Very well. I also spoke with Jiraiya-sama earlier and he said you wanted to wear heavy weights mixed with gravity seals, said Guy as he produced leg weights and threw them to Naruto with a weight in them being several hundred pounds each. Not bad. I can use these. Both filled to the max with the heaviest weights around. Said Naruto as he put them on and felt himself moving slower than usual. Yes. When you see Jiraiya-sama later today, he can add on the gravity seals and make them even heavier, said Guy as he now got into his fighting stance and Naruto did the same. Don't hold back, Guy-sensei. The harder the training the better, said Naruto seeing Guy nod in understanding. The boy had a month to learn his taijutsu and he wanted to learn it the hard way just like Lee did. Watching the two from a safe distance, Tenten watched the two spar against the other and while Naruto was clearly holding back he was still taking hits from the more skilled taijutsu master. Though the thing that impressed Tenten the most was how well Naruto had adapted to Guy's level so easily and wondered just how far the blonde could go in such a short time. Of course, Guy had yet to remove his weights, but she knew that he would do that only when Naruto had adjusted to this level and not a second sooner. It's a shame I have to train with Niji. Oh well. There will be plenty of times for me to watch these two spar, thought Tenten before sighing and heading off to meet with Niji for his training. Naruto couldn't remember the last time he had a spar like this that got the blood rushing and deep in the back of his mind, the blonde knew why. He never really had a spar like this before as Kakashi would either have him do chakra control exercises or leave the blonde to his own devices. Not to mention Naruto didn't know that there was no one to spar with in hand-to-hand combat, much less one he could trust not to use it as an excuse to beat him to death. But with Guy being his taijutsu instructor, the blonde didn't have to worry about that and could enjoy himself in having this fight. Eventually the two fighters had gone at it for what seemed like hours and by that point it was finally time to call it quits since Naruto had to meet with Jiraiya soon. Still, it had been a productive day as Guy left him scrolls to know the stances better, to use shadow clones to have them test out the stances and the original Naruto would spend time with Jiraiya. With Jiraiya. About time you got here. I was about to think Kakashi's tardy behavior had rubbed off on you, said Jiraiya seeing Naruto scowl in anger at the mention of the Cyclops. I was enjoying my training session for once with a competent Jounin sensei. Sue me, said Naruto, while Jiraiya grumbled something like smartass before approaching him with a book on an introduction to sealing. Look at this book later on today. It's a basic guide into sealing. Your mother's side of the family were naturals with the art, so this will help get things moving. Now let me see those leg weights of yours so I can put some gravity seals on them and take these wristbands too. Once I activate the ones I put on your legs, they'll activate too and thus make things more difficult for you to move around. Are you sure you want to do this? I mean even Guy and Lee aren't this crazy and those two have done some pretty weird stuff if what some of the other shinobi have told me, said Jiraiya as Naruto put on the wristbands, seeing the gravity seal markings on them and waited for Jiraiya to finish working on the leg weights. Trust me. From what I know of the Saiyan race from Bardock's memories, their planet had gravity 10 times that of ours, and they also wore weighted armor to further add to increasing their strength when not in combat, said Naruto, while memories of Saiyans in such gravity appeared in his mind. That's insane in itself. Well, I'm done. Gravity seal 20 times activate, said Jiraiya as he activated the gravity seal, and Naruto almost kissed the ground had he not reacted fast enough. Perfect. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a workout regimen to do and not enough time on my hands to get things done, said Naruto as he began doing push-ups, and Jiraiya just watched the blonde in shock since he never expected the boy to be smiling after that. Something tells me this kid's personal workout regimen is just getting started and make guys look tame, thought Jiraiya while making a shadow clone to watch over the kid and went out to do spy master stuff. Hours later. Holy shit. This kid is still going. Thought the shadow clone of Jiraiya as he had been watching the boy do push-ups for 5 hours straight and not once did Naruto stop. Even Guy or Lee would have stopped at this point with all the weights on their body. I should have done this with those two exercise nutcases a long time ago. I almost regret pulling pranks on people. Almost. Of course, I probably still would even after meeting them and just worn weights to make things more interesting when being chased, said Naruto with a grin on his face as he was nearing 50,000 push-ups. Naruto running around in green spandex talking about the springtime of youth. Ah. No. Get out of my head. Think perverted thoughts. Think perverted thoughts, damn it. Tsunade in a bikini. Not enough. Tsunade naked under a waterfall. Better, but still not enough. I know. Tsunade having hot lesbian sex with that Mitarashi Anko chick. Oh yeah. Much better, thought the shadow clone of Jiraiya while Naruto finished his push-up and quickly leaped to his feet, though he appeared to be struggling to stay up at first. That was a good first start, said Naruto seeing the shadow clone of Jiraiya just look at him like he was crazy. A good first start. You just did 50,000 push-ups with weights and gravity seals on top of them. What more could you want to do now? Said the shadow clone of the Toad Sannin with Naruto grinning at him. What else after doing so many? I'm going to eat. Said Naruto and flew off to his old eating place while the shadow clone of Jiraiya face planted himself on the ground before going poof. The real Jiraiya felt the memories of his shadow clone and his eyebrow twitched at the boy's statement about food. Ichiraku ramen at the moment. AM had only heard rumors of Naruto's transformation, some claiming he was showing his demonic form now and was planning to go on a rampage. Killing people, maiming them, offering innocent maidens up as sacrifices to some demonic god in hell, and trying to open a portal into the demonic realm. AM thought they were being stupid, of course, as she had seen Naruto put up with all their crap and not once even attempt to do those things, despite being more than entitled to should the opportunity present itself. Poor Naruto. No matter what he does, they put him down and do everything in their power to keep him down, thought AM before a swish was heard and what she went to see her latest customer made the woman's jaw drop. Hey AM-chan. Give me all the ramen you got. All of it. I'm hungry. Really hungry, said Naruto while AM just stared at him in disbelief, well unsure of what to make of his new appearance. Then Naruto? Said AM as she saw him sit down and couldn't believe the change in the boy. In the flesh. Now about that order of just about all the ramen in back, said Naruto while AM's father came out from the back. Naruto? Holy crap. What happened to you? Said Tucci as he sees Naruto looking like someone you don't want to mess with in a dark alley, and if you did you were screwed. My body basically got an upgrade. I'm strong, faster, and better than ever before. That also includes my stomach, said Naruto before that same organ rumbled angrily for food and actually shook the ramen stand. You're serious? All the ramen I've got. How could you even afford it? Even if some of the bowls were on the house it would be too much. Said AM as she saw him grin and knew he had an ace up his sleeve. Simple. Send the bill to Jiraiya of the Sannin, said Naruto with Tucci looking at him with eyes nearly popping out of his sockets. The Jiraiya of the Sannin. Said Tucci in shock at hearing who to send the bill to for so much ramen. Yeah. Jiraiya's my godfather. If the man complains tell him this is a form of payment for 12 years of neglect in his duties, said Naruto with grin on his face. And if he doesn't do it? Said AM with Naruto's face becoming deadly serious. Tell Jiraiya he either pays you in money or he pays me with his balls being ripped out his ass. It shouldn't be too difficult a choice. A piece of his male pride. Or money, said Naruto seeing Tucci go pale at the mention of balls being ripped out part. Does he even have the money for it? Said AM knowing that well Jiraiya probably got quite a sum of money over the years, but to pay for that much ramen, it was quite the fortune. You know those perverted orange books Hada Kakashi and other shinobi read all the time? Said Naruto while AM frowns and Tucci grins. Oh yeah. Real popular among the men of the world, said Tucci with a chuckle while AM had an angry look on her face. You mean the perverts of the world, said AM, knowing what she'd do if Kakashi came in here with that book in hand. Slash. Off with his hand, the book, and maybe something else too while she was at it. Jiraiya of the Sannin is the author of those books, and I imagine he's made a fortune with them over the years, said Naruto smirking, and saw Tucci's eyes became dollar signs with AM having an evil smile on her usually innocent face. Of course. After all, a godfather should treat his godson to at least one all-you-can-eat ramen special, and no one eats ramen like you do, Naruto, said AM, as she was going to enjoy sticking Jiraiya with the bill and laugh when he had his heart attack that would bring about the end of Icha Icha paradise. The young ramen waitress mentally let out an evil laugh with thunder and lightning in the background at seeing the end to such perverted smut. Her father was picturing all the money Jiraiya would give them, and they could expand their business in making it larger to hold more customers with enough left over to retire. Hell, Tucci was willing to do just that and let AM run the store in his place with a whole staff. I agree. All the ramen Naruto can eat and then some, said Tucci as he was making the food for Naruto and saw the blonde eat it faster than ever before. And that was saying something. Soon Naruto was eating them faster than Tucci could make, bowls piling up for all to see, and it was drawing quite a crowd. While many did not care for the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, they did become amazed at how much he was able to stuff his face and eat so much ramen without puking. Even the Akimichi, who were watching this, were amazed, impressed, and slightly afraid at the sight of bowls that told all that saw them that Naruto's stomach surpassed all. Within a span of 3 amazing hours of making ramen, Tucci found himself completely out of the food in all of its forms and means of making it. Everything from beef to miso ramen were no more, and the belly of Naruto was showing itself to be bulging with the stomach being very happy at eating so much food. Damn, that was good. A few hours exercising and I should have all this fat turned back into muscle in no time, said Naruto as he patted his belly and let out a massive burp that shook the entire area around him. That was the most sickest and most horrible display of eating I have ever seen, said Shikamaru, who had been a witness to the event with Choji and saw his teammate just staring at Naruto. Akimichi Choji, bow to your stomach, Naruto, and submit that no one member of my clan can match its greatness, said Choji as he bowed before Naruto, and Shikamaru just felt flat on the ground with a slight twitch. Troublesome, thought Shikamaru while Naruto just laughed and patted Choji on the back. Thanks, Choji. Now I have to work off all this extra weight with some light training. I think I'll make an army of shadow clones and do 8 hours of non-stop taijutsu practice, said Naruto before flying off into the air to a training ground while Shikamaru just saw the blonde fly away and then looked dumbly at Choji, now sporting that same look. Did he just call 8 hours of non-stop taijutsu practice light training? Said Shikamaru, seeing Choji nod. But he did, said Choji while Shikamaru looked back into the sky where Naruto had flown off to. Since when does Naruto train like Mito guy on steroids? Thought Shikamaru before deciding for his own mental health to let the matter drop for now. It was just too troublesome. But Jiraiya sometime later. Jiraiya was happy. He got some research done, his godson was training for the chunin exams, and the gods above were content to let things stay that way. If there was one thing Jiraiya knew how to do was not make waves when there was no point to making them. Jiraiya-sama, said a chunin appearing in the bar. The Sannin had decided to have a drink and while enjoying this moment of tranquility. Yeah, that's me, said Jiraiya turning to the chunin, who handed the Toad Sannin a very large compressed receipt of some kind and a large number at the bottom. Uzumaki, Naruto told the owner of Ichiraku Ramen that you would pick up this bill for him, said Chunin as he just bowed politely and left the stunned Jiraiya to see the exact total of the bill. What? Naruto? Yelled Jiraiya as he saw the long, very long bill and the amount that was apparently owed before looking at the note at the bottom. P.S. Naruto told us you are his godfather and owe him 12 years for your neglect. Don't fight it. You can't. Damn that Brad and his guilt trip. Thought Jiraiya, who knew this huge bill would break a lesser man's bank account. The years of living like a hermit and letting his fortune build up from his books barely made a dent in his wallet. Still, did the Gaki really have to hit him with this? Namikaze estates. A few weeks later. Naruto had really gotten into the spirit of things when it came to his training, which had involved sparring with Guy, learning the art of sealing from Jiraiya, and yet as the exam finals were only a few more days away, the blonde felt like there was something missing in his training. Like a piece of his Saiyan heritage that Naruto should have learned was right in his reach and yet was completely over his head. But what was it? Naruto-sama, said Kin as she saw him sipping some tea and found it strange that such an energetic individual could look so calm right now. Yes, Kin, said Naruto as he turned to face his unofficial maid at her insistence while staying here and saw the girl enter the living room area. There is a wonderful moon out tonight. Would you like to see it with me? Said Kin while she saw him stiffen at the mention of the moon. The moon is out. Said Naruto while something in him began to feel like that should be important. Yes. Nearly full from what I can see. Maybe it is a full one, said Kin, seeing him stiffen further and felt his power spike slightly. Kin, I would like nothing more than to look at the moon with you right now, but there is something about the orb in the sky that brings out a very dangerous part of my Saiyan side, and if I can't control it will bring about your death, said Naruto, seeing one of the memories of Bardock looking up at a full moon and changing into a giant ape like his fellow Saiyans. Oh. My apologizes Naruto-sama, I didn't know since you never showed it during your training, and with the chunin exam finals drawing ever closer, said Kin, as she saw him rise from his couch and just smiled at her. It's alright. I didn't even know about it until you mentioned the moon being in the sky and have always gone to bed at night before it comes out. However, like you mentioned just now, the chunin exam finals are approaching and I would be foolish to miss out on this opportunity, said Naruto, seeing the girl looking concerned for a second since whatever power he intended to unleash could possibly destroy their home. How would you test out this new power Naruto-sama? Said Kin, as she saw him smirk at her and it made the girl's heart jump a little. By looking at the moon at a safe distance from the house and the village. If I do lose the ability to control myself, the village will be annihilated and that's not on my agenda right now, at least not yet, said Naruto, letting out a chuckle. Where are you going to test this newfound power? Said Kin curiously. I'll find a spot. In the meantime, you stay here and get some sleep, said Naruto as he left the house and took to the air while keeping his line of sight away from the moon in the night sky. Must be some power if he's flying off somewhere away from the village, thought Kin, as she wondered what the moon had to do with his power and just how dangerous it was. Day of the chunin exam finals. The contestants participating in the chunin exams were lined up, each one ready for the upcoming fights and showing what they were capable of to the future clients of the world watching them. Of course, not all of the Genin now chunin potentials were lined up, as Naruto, Dosu and Sasuke had yet to show up for this event. While most of the people in the stadium watching in the stands cared little for Naruto, for obvious reasons, in terms of showing up, they were concerned for Sasuke and the fact that he could be disqualified with the chance to become Chunin being denied. Where's Naruto? And Sasuke? They wouldn't miss this event for the world, said Ino, as she saw Neji looking confident and Gaara was well just being Gaara. Ai-sensei has been training Naruto into jutsu for the entire month. I doubt Naruto would do all that training, said Tenten, as she was sitting with the others and noticed Hinata was looking increasingly worried. After what Naruto did to her father, the Sandaime had told Hiashi to hold off on marking his eldest with the cage bird seal and see how things progress with Naruto. When the clan head asked why, the Sandaime Hokage told him that Hinata had caught Naruto's eye and to do anything to her might result in the blonde unleashing Kyuubi's power on the clan. In fact, the Sandaime proposed that Hiashi wait until after the Chunin exam finals were over and Naruto was restrained before doing anything to Hinata in that manner. The last thing the Hokage wanted was for Naruto to go on a rampage and cause a lot of damage to the leaf after such an important event that would make the enemies of the village smell blood from freshly made wounds. Will Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Neji stay for the first match of the Chunin exam finals, said Genma, as he saw the other contestants leave while Neji stayed and waited for Naruto to show up. Where is Uzumaki Naruto? I was told by a reliable source he would be participating today, Hokage-sama, said Terumi Mei, as she had taken a seat to the Hokage's right while the Kazekage was on his left and also wanting to hear an explanation. I don't know, Mizukage-sama. I assure you, an investigation into this matter will be led by me should Naruto not show up and a punishment delivered should proof of foul play be discovered, said the Hokage, as he had hidden his surprise at seeing the woman in Mizukage robes come to the cage booth shortly after the Kazekage arrived. And told them both she was the new ruler of Mist thanks to the help of a great warrior. I bet. Probably feared Naruto-kun and have him locked away somewhere, thought Mei, as she watched the Hyuga stand proudly like he had gone toe-to-toe with a cage and won without breaking a sweat. Fool. All that talk and he doesn't even show up. Hinata-sama is an even bigger fool for believing in him, thought Neji, as he waited for Genma to declare him the winner and head into the fighter's box. That was until the cries and shouts from people in surprise were heard, with everyone now looking up to see Naruto shooting towards them like a falling star before flying around the inner part of the stadium in complete circles. The speed he was using was kicking up dust, dirt, and basically blinding everyone that was in the lower seats before gracefully landing on the ground barely 10 feet away from Neji. Am I late? Said Naruto with an almost evil-looking grin on his face. You made it. Just barely though. What kept you? Said Genma, seeing the blonde Saiyan grin. I have been busy training for this very day. I wanted to get everything just right for the Chunin exam finals and show exactly what I'm capable of doing, said Naruto, as he was in black pants, armored combat boots with jagged greaves on them, and red t-shirt with various armbands on both arms with silver bracers around each hand that went just past the wrist. They also had weights and gravity seals on them, along with special expanding seals used to make clothing stretch, which were used by the Akamichi for when they would increase their size and prevent any kind of clothing malfunction from happening. He had studied the idea behind it, used the designs already used, and modified them so they would allow all his clothing to expand to even greater lengths when going into his grade 8 form. Kyuubi knew about the transformation of course, but had decided not to mention it at all during his month of training, which pissed the blonde off and asked her why she didn't tell him about it. The demonic vixen wasn't sure if his body could handle the change due to her presence in him, and with a month getting used to his changed body seemed to be a much more important task for the Saiyan. She figured such a power should be known after the chunin exams when things had calmed down and could focus on it later rather than sooner. Naruto agreed on some level, but given he had a whole month, which also included the night and the moon itself, the blonde told Kyuubi not to do that again or he would make her life very miserable. If you say so. Both genin are ready. Fight. Said Genma with Niji rushing forward in his gentle fist stance to put an end to the showy blonde. Come on Niji. Is this all you can do? I don't have to do anything except stay in the air and out of your reach, said Naruto as he dodged each attack and took to the air with amusement on his face. Since when could Naruto fly? Said Ino as she had seen him hover a bit in the chunin preliminaries but she thought it was some kind of trick using a wind jutsu and not the real actual flying he was doing right now. Beats the hell out of me, said Choji while Sakura scoffed. It doesn't matter, the Baka is going to lose, said Sakura while the others looked at her with shocked eyes. How can you say that? He's your teammate. Said Tenten with Sakura waving her off. That gets into a lot of trouble and danger. He's not worth anyone's concern, said Sakura while Hinata glared at her, would have done more if not for the coughing fit she went into. Hinata. We need to get you to a doctor, said Kurenai as she saw her student fight and desire to stay. I'm fine. I just need to calm down, said Hinata as she saw her Jounin sensei nod and yet was clearly keeping an eye on her. Get down here, coward. At least when Hinata-sama, for all her weak pathetic life, had the courage to fight me and hold her ground against my attacks. Said Niji, which made Naruto scowl at him and descended to the ground with a loud boom. That shook the arena floor. Okay. I was just messing around to stretch my legs a bit, but because of that, I'm going to do what I said I would do and kick your ass all over this arena, said Naruto while flaring his energy, and it kicked up some more dirt. Big talk from a failure. Just like Hinata-sama, said Niji while being forced to turn off his Byakugan. You seem confident in that statement, Hyuga Niji. We'll see how strong that conviction is when I leave your body broken on the ground, said Naruto as he raised his power up even higher, was there 1 second and then gone the next in the blink of an eye. Only to appear behind Niji, an arm around the Hyuga's neck and driving his knee into the older boy's spine. The Hyuga tried to cry out in pain, but it was so intense that any sound that wanted to leave his mouth to signify his pain failed to do so and could only stumble to the ground when released. He didn't have time to recover as Naruto kicked him in the ribs, making Niji bounce heavily on the ground until hitting the arena wall below the stands. The Saiyan was in front of Niji in an instant, picking up the bloodied Hyuga off the ground and then threw him easily into the center of the arena floor so everyone could see the prodigy of the Hyuga clan and all of his so-called glory. Damn. He beat Niji up and the fight just barely started, thought Kiba as he realized just how easy Naruto went on him in the preliminaries and was slightly happy that his ass wasn't the only one getting kicked around right now. Look at you. Hyuga Niji. The so-called prodigy of the Hyuga clan on the ground, a bleeding mess. Last year, you were the rookie of the year at the academy and yet for all your greatness you look like helpless child, said Naruto while Niji spit out some blood from his mouth and staggered off the ground. What do you know? You're nothing. Just some peasant. A commoner who when compared to noble blood should be lucky, breathed the air around me. Hinata-sama is only fortunate enough to be in main family and be considered higher than I am in connection to our noble clan. It's a shame someone of such privilege such as herself would be so weak and pathetic like the boy she's long since admired. Of course, it's to be expected that such a weak and pathetic girl will find strength in another weak and pathetic boy. It's even more pathetic when the boy is just lowly piece of trash not worthy of being a smear on the sandals of a noble's foot. Said Niji as he lashed out with his gentle fist style and hit Naruto directly in the chest where his heart was located with all the chakra he had. For a moment, no one moved, breathed, or even blinked while many thought the fight was over. That Naruto had let his guard down and Niji got the final word along with the final hit to end the match. Hinata looked in horror at the sight of her crush being struck, the gentle mind she possessed picturing his heart struggling to live under the attack but collapsed in the end and exploding into tiny little pieces. Tenten was thinking the same thing as she knew how deadly Niji could be with his clan style and wondered what this guilty feeling was that now struck her heart. Was she feeling this because the training Niji asked for? Granted, it didn't really do much good for Niji, but the fact was that her teammate for a Hyuga had intended to make each strike lethal in of itself and not rely on multiple shots to get the job done. Shame. He was kind of cute, thought Tamari, as she was hoping that after the invasion, he would captured and be her slave boyfriend with the possibility of getting a powerful bloodline out of the deal for Suna. I'm putting a bounty on the Hyuga's head when I get back to Mist. Dead or alive. And if he's before me alive, the Gaki won't be for long, thought Mei, as she might have found a future husband for herself after a few more years, and this stupid Hyuga ruined it. Oh yeah, she was so going to mess that brat up if her shinobi brought him back to Mist alive. Guaranteed. He's not dead, said Gaara, watching from the fighter's box with his siblings, and they turned to look at him along with the others in the box. You sure, Gaara? I mean, the gentle fist is not something you can walk away from, said Kankuro, with Gaara turn his eyes, but not his head to look at him, and felt killer intent aimed in his direction. I'm sure, said Gaara, while Kankuro began to sweat a little. How do you know that? Said Tamari curiously. Because he's like me. And people like us do not die so easily. Said Gaara while turning his attention to Naruto, and the memory of a few days ago came to his mind when in the hospital to finish off Rock Lee. Flashback: Konoha Hospital 4 days ago. Rock Lee was unconscious. The sedatives used had to be strong enough to put a horse to sleep. Why? Because Lee had been abusing his body and training it to get stronger while he was still recovering from the serious damage Sabaku no Gaara put it through. At this moment in time, no one was with Lee, as Guy was either training with Naruto or doing his own outrageous training that made many think he was nuts. However, that all changed when the bloodlust-filled presence of Sabaku no Gaara came into the room, his eyes looking at Rock Lee, and sand slowly coming out of his gourd. The intention of this visit? To finish what he started in the chunin exam preliminaries and kill Rock Lee to further please his mother inside his head. Time to die, Rock Lee. Mother wants your blood and she will have it. Said Gaara, as his sand got closer and the growing anticipation of devouring the helpless genin, knowing that his mother would be very pleased with the offering. No. Your mother won't have it, said Naruto from behind Gaara, his right arm raised, the hand in open palm form, and energy forming into a ball ready to be sent at the Suna-born boy's red-haired skull. Do not get in my way. I won't let you do this to me a second time, said Gaara, with his sand redirecting itself at Naruto, but the blonde let out a blast of his power that sent the sand flying against the wall and leaving the red-haired boy defenseless. You don't have choice. If it were almost anyone else, I'd let you do it without a second thought, but it's not almost anyone else, and I happen to respect this one. His sensei is helping and training me for the exam finals. Besides, why would you kill him now? There is no honor in it, said Naruto, with Gaara smirking at him while the sand came back to his gourd. This is not about honor. It's about killing, said Gaara coldly while once more making the sand redirect itself back to Lee once in his presence, but it was stopped when another connected to his shadow and found it wouldn't budge. Troublesome. One of you being crazy is bad enough, but 2 of you is just worse, and I don't know which one between you is the greater idiot, said Shikamaru, while holding Gaara and his sand in place with his shadow possession jutsu. Don't think too hard, Shikamaru. The lazy boy and you just might die, said Naruto with a smirk, while Shikamaru groaned. Like I said before, you are troublesome, and so is your sense of humor, said Shikamaru, while Gaara just scowled at the interference the two had brought. I will not be denied by either of you. I will kill this genin, then you too, and prove my existence, said Gaara before commanding more of his sand to converge on Lee, much to Shikamaru's shock and surprise. He shouldn't be able to do that. Thought Shikamaru while trying to figure out how Gaara did do that. That's almost as funny as it is stupid, said Naruto calmly, while Gaara's sand suddenly stopped and the boy himself glared at him. Explain. Said Gaara coldly. Simple. If you kill all 3 of us, how can you prove your existence? Who would you tell? Who would believe you? Said Naruto, seeing Gaara's eyes narrow at him. My brother, sister, and sensei would believe me, said Gaara, while Naruto scoffed. Family and sensei don't count. You want to kill us? Fine. But not here. Not here where it's quiet, no one's around to see or tell anyone what you are going to do. The chunin exam finals are almost here, where hundreds people in Konoha and all over the world will be attending. Big shot clients and daimyos will be watching. They see you kill us, they'll spread your name throughout their lands and tell their friends about you. They'll take you seriously. Fight us there, said Naruto, with Gaara thinking his words over in his mind. Your words hold weight. There is truth in them, said Gaara before retracting his sand back into the gourd. Why would I lie to a fellow brother? Said Naruto, lower his hand while seeing Gaara and Shikamaru looking at him with raised eyebrows. Brother? I have no brother outside of my older one, said Gaara while Naruto smirked at him. Not by blood. By burden, said Naruto with Gaara's eyes widening for a second. What is Naruto talking about? thought Shikamaru while Gaara just stared at him for a second with unsure eyes. "I hold number 1, said Gaara at last. "And I hold number 9, said Naruto, making Gaara's spine straighten noticeably. "I see. It is no wonder you are able to make me understand your words so well. I will see you at the chunin exam finals," said Gaara before vanishing in a swirl of sand, and a stunned Nara Shikamaru was now looking at him like he was missing something. "Care to fill me in, you troublesome blonde?" said Shikamaru before Guy came in with a serious expression on his face, and it was clear the jounin heard everything. "Later. Much later. You have 5 minutes to see Lee before we do more training again, Guy-sensei. Don't wear weights this time. I want to fight you for the next 3 days without restraint on your end," said Naruto, seeing Guy nod before dragging Shikamaru out of the room. Then flashback. "What? You mean he's like you?" But said Temari in disbelief while Kankuro was shivering in fear at what that meant. Gaara was bad enough, but that was monster they knew, and this Naruto character had the strongest of them all without much intel on him. "Yes. He will be my greatest victory," said Gaara while grinning a truly evil smile. "You can let go now, Niji. You may look like a girl, but I don't swing that way and never will for as long as I live," said Naruto finally, while Niji looked at him in shock, knowing it shouldn't be possible for him to shrug off the attack like it was nothing. "I am possible," said Niji in disbelief before crawling backwards away from Naruto. "Hardly. Now I do believe that you've had your fighting chance in trying to cause me at the very least a great deal of pain. At most, you tried to kill me, and in front of everyone here in a legal setting like you tried with Hinata in the preliminaries. You failed for a second time. Now it's my turn," said Naruto before grinning an evil grin that spoke of the many things to come that would not be pretty for one Hyuga Niji. In an instant, Naruto was gone again, only to appear in front of Niji, his fist in the older boy's gut, the impact nearly turning the Hyuga's internal organs into paste, and was soon followed by another blow by the young Saiyan. Then more blows from Naruto to Niji at all possible angles, hitting the Hyuga prodigy hard and fast without mercy in front of shocked eyes. No one expected Niji to lose against a blonder this badly, despite the rumors of Naruto's change in appearance. They never expected that their poorly trained Kyuubi Jinchuriki would be winning against the Hyuga clan prodigy and last year's Rookie of the Year. One final fist to the face sent Niji skidding along the ground as Naruto slowly walked over to the downed Hyuga and had an orb of energy in his hand, ready to blast the older boy to pieces. Niji could only stare at the bright light from the energy ball Naruto had just made and then up at the blonde to await the inevitable end of his life. This was not how Niji pictured things ending. Not by a long shot. The elders and Hiashi had greatly convinced him that Naruto would lose at his hands through the superior Taijutsu that was Gentle Fist. But here he was. Broken. Bleeding. Staring at his death and the man holding the pre-verbal scythe in his hand. So this is how it ends. And here I thought fate was on my side. I was wrong, thought Niji as he saw Naruto looking at him for a few more seconds and then cancel the attack before walking away. "Call the match." "I won," said Naruto while heading to the fighter's box. "Winner of the first match is Uzumaki Naruto," said Genma while the medics rushed to Niji and bring him to the medical area. "Naruto won," said Sakura in disbelief while many were thinking the same thing, but in a more positive line of thinking, and not with contempt either. "It shouldn't surprise you. Guy-sensei was spending time with Naruto the whole month in learning Taijutsu, and that includes using a lot of weights. I wouldn't be surprised if he was holding back against Niji," said Tenten, making many of the people around her begin to wonder if that was true and just how strong Naruto really was. It made them shiver at the possibilities. "That's my man. Granted, he was clearly fighting for the honor of this Hyuga girl, but that won't stop me from making Naruto mine in a few years," and with his impressive display of power, thought Mei, as she got perverted things running around in her mind and had to fight the blush that wanted to form. "The boy is impressive, Hokage-sama. Where have you been keeping this one? Under a special lock and key perhaps?" said the Kazukiage with curiosity. "In a manner of speaking. Yes. The boy has been training non-stop all month in secret with Mito Guy and Jiraiya of the Sannin. I can see his training has shown promising results," said the Sandaime, while acting like he had made it possible. Something both his guests knew wasn't true. Still, he was impressive and with his ability to fly gave him quite the edge. I say this Uzumaki Naruto knew that and used it to his advantage. "He's more than qualified to be Chunin in my book," said Mei, while the Sandaime bit back the frown that wanted to reveal itself. "Maybe. Though I think the boy has much to learn about being on time and not being so flashy with entrances," said the Sandaime, while the Mizukage raised an eyebrow at him. "Then I take it Ichiha Sasuke won't be promoted either," said Mei while the Hokage mentally winced. "Yes. He won't be promoted. Neither of them will be promoted due to tardiness," said the Hokage, knowing he could always promote Sasuke later using some other means or law Konoha possessed. "Really? What a shame. I think Uzumaki Naruto would make a great chunin, said Mei, seeing the Hokage scowl now and the Kazekage doing it too, though with lesser notice behind the veil. Next match is Uchiha Sasuke vs Sabaku no Gaara, said Genma, seeing Gaara appear moments later, but Sasuke was not around and the Kazekige's youngest son hated to wait. It seems the Uchiha isn't going to show, said Mei, while the Hokage and the Kazekige frowned. With all due respect Hokage-sama, but perhaps we should just postpone Uchiha Sasuke's match with Gaara and continue forward since we both want our best to fight each other for the benefit of the people, said the Kazekige, and it seemed like the Hokage was going to agree. Hell no. We are not postponing. Uchiha Sasuke knew when to show up for the chunin exams like everybody else. He's not here. Just because he is the last of his clan does not mean the boy should get special privileges, said Mei, while seeing the Hokage and the Kazekige look at her. I see the mist's contempt for bloodlines still lives in its new leader, said the Kazekige, while Mei washed the entire cage booth in killer intent. How dare you? I hold no prejudice over bloodlines, for I have one myself, and yet I say no special privileges for the Uchiha. You either disqualify Uchiha Sasuke or I will make sure your daimyo will hear of my complaints on this matter, since the previous cages in any of the village never did such a thing. Said Mei, with the Hokage and Kazekige both frowning at this since they both wanted Sasuke to be here for this. Disqualify the Uchiha, said the Sandaime Hokage, while the Kazekige was internally seething at the command the old fire shadow gave a nearby subordinate. Hokage-sama, my son will be most displeased by this and it will hurt by not being able to fight Uchiha Sasuke, said the Kazekige, while the Hokage sighed and the Mizukage just rolled her eyes. He can suck it up. From what I've heard, the boy isn't going to whine and bitch over the loss of not fighting one person, said Mei coldly to the Kazekige. They can't do this. Sasuke-kun is supposed to win. Not Naruto. Not the Sabaku no Gaara baka, said Sakura as she was in pure pissed off fangirl mode and everyone could see it from a mile away. Will Sabaku no Kankuro and Aburame Shino please come down? Your match is next, said Genma, seeing the puppet user looking uneasy at the moment. I forfeit, said Kankuro quickly, while Shino and Naruto narrowed their eyes at him. Okay. Winner by forfeit is Aburame Shino. Will Sabaku no Tamari and Nara Shikamaru come down? Your match is next, said Genma, with Tamari coming down via her fan in a graceful manner, while Shikamaru began to think things over in terms of whether or not to simply forfeit. Troublesome. I have to fight another girl. Kami must either hate me or is a woman. Or both. Maybe I should just play it safe and forfeit, Shikamaru thought, but just as the lazy genius was about to forfeit his match, Kami threw a wrench in his plans and it was the size of a sledgehammer. Nara Shikamaru. A female voice suddenly yelled out from the stands that spoke of authority that rivaled the Hokage in his prime, that could make anyone freeze in fear. But only the lazy shadow user froze. He knew that voice all too well. It was the voice of the person he feared above all else. More than the Hokage in his prime and full of rage. Slowly, ever so slowly, the Shikamaru turned in the direction of the voice and he was immediately frightened for his life. His mother, Nara Yoshino, was standing up with her evil frying pan, which had been dubbed the emasculator by all the males of the Nara clan, in her firm pain-inflicting hands. Yoshino roared, Shikamaru Nara. Don't you even so much as think of surrendering, or so help me, with Kami as my witness, I will take you over my knee here and now and spank your lazy ass so hard you won't be able to sit for a year. Shikamaru looked devastated and looked to his father, Shikaku Nara, for help in keeping his mother at bay. Shikaku just looked at his son sympathetically and shook his head at the boy's plight. There was no way Shikaku could talk to his wife about letting their only son off the hook. Even if she did, Yoshino would make them both pay for it in the end, and the clan head didn't want to be left alone with his wife when that happened. If there was one thing all male Naras knew, it was that they may be very smart, but their wives and mothers were even smarter. The Nara male thinks about where to take a woman on the first date, the woman in question is already thinking about marrying them and their need to have a child, while using that child to keep their future husband in line. Sure, they let their husbands go out for a drink every so often, but they always check with their better half, and if they are so much as 5 minutes late. Bam. The incredible power of the emasculator would set the Nara male at hit straight, knowing that woman who was wielding it was not only unhappy, but she was going to leave out the safety word when they coupled, and that there would be a lot of pain involved in those long hours. Lots and lots of pain from which there was no escape for the male Nara tied down and gagged to prevent any brave soul from hearing the ear-piercing screams being let out. Defeated, Shikamaru began walking towards the stairs into the arena, mumbling all the while about troublesome women with evil frying pans and how there was no way to defeat them. It just further proved to Nara Shikamaru that Kami was a woman and was doing this just to spite their lazy clan. Not that way, you idiot. This is much faster, said Naruto, who wasn't going to wait for the Nara to slowly walk down the steps of the fighter's box and threw the boy over the railing. Damn you, Naruto. You're just like my mother. Always being a pain in my ass, said Shikamaru as he got off the ground and dusted himself off. Pain in your ass? I'll give you a pain in the ass, yelled Yoshino while Shikaku had to struggle to keep his wife in the stands and not win the match their son's opponent. Honey, stop. You can get him later, said Shikaku knowing his wife would get him later too, but it would be worth it to see his son advance in rank and make Yoshino's mood lighten knowing Shikamaru was growing up. Fine. But his ass will be mine when this is all over. Yelled with all the female fury that being a mother to such a lazy son could produce. Yes, honey. I know. Until then just keep calm and think happy thoughts. Happy thoughts only. Said Shikaku seeing his wife struggle to bring her temper in check. Wow. I almost feel sorry for you, said Tamari smirking with her fan at the ready. Really? Said Shikamaru in a lazy tone that didn't believe the smirking woman in front of him. I almost feel sorry for you, said Tamari as she saw Shikamaru mumble and look at her with no real interest in his eyes. Ready? Fight. Said Genma before leaping back to give the two space. Troublesome, thought Shikamaru as he saw that same evil glint in Tamari's eyes that his mother had and found the similarities to be very disturbing. Maybe Tamari was his cousin or something on his mom's side of the family. Or was it just how all women looked at him when they wanted to inflict bodily harm? Naruto's apartment number 3. During the long month gap leading to the chunin exams, Naruto had the hole in the wall discreetly patched up and used the building from time to time for throwing the Hokage off the scent of him, knowing where his real home was along with protecting Kin from any more kidnappings. Now here he was, relaxing after a long day, as Kin knew of where he was going to be sleeping tonight in the near future until the chunin exam finals were over and things calmed down in the village. A knock at his door brought him to it as he saw the person behind the door was none other than Inuzuka Hana and she was in Naruto's mind a real babe. She was wearing grey shorts that went down to her knees, sandals with straps that just went above the ankles, and a tank top with chunin vest behind it to hide the bust the woman had. Can I help you? Said Naruto with the woman looking him over. I'm looking for Uzumaki Naruto, said Hana as she saw him raise an eyebrow at her and wondered if she might need glasses. I'm him, said Naruto while seeing how far she would go to deny it. Don't play games with me. Naruto is a short runt who wears an orange jumpsuit and eats ramen like an Akamichi does BBQ ribs, said Hana while seeing Naruto chuckle at her. Well, I'm not short anymore and while orange is a nice color I do imagine the jumpsuit with the color being the vast majority on it is a bit much, said Naruto while not denying he ate a lot of ramen. I still don't believe you're him. When Kiba told me who beat him in the chunin exam finals, I looked at your folder and found the picture of you with the stats recorded, said Hana while Naruto scoffed. Outdated and poorly documented material. You should have come here first to get the full story about me, said Naruto with a grin on his face. If you say so. I'm still not convinced, said Hana as she tried to keep calm and not feel a sudden burning feeling in her loins. Come on in and I'll prove it to you, said Naruto with his grin getting wider and Hana could feel her face getting warmer too. Okay. But only for a moment, said Hana as she entered the apartment and Naruto shut the door before locking it. Next morning. Hana stumbled home. Her walk was wobbly at best. She had bags under her eyes from the lack of sleep due to the activities from last night. Her hair was standing all over the place, drool was coming out of the Inuzuka's face and mumbling something while trying to make it home without falling down. The clothing she wore was rumpled, the chunin vest looked like it had nearly been torn in half, barely holding on at the seams, and her pants so loose at the waist that you could see what lay beyond them on one side if the tank top wasn't down at that level to prevent people from seeing. She entered the Inuzuka clan house, heading for the stairs and finally to her room. Sis. What the hell happened to you? Said Kiba seeing his sister like that. Found Alpha. Good. Night. Sleep. Need rest, said Hana while opening the door to her room while Kiba just looked shocked and then angry. What? Who is he? I'll kill him. Yelled Kiba before being kicked in the balls by Hana despite her exhausted condition. Shut up runt, said Hana as she headed into her room, shutting the door and making it to the edge of the bed before falling onto the soft surface. Sometime later. You're what? Yelled Tsume seeing Hana holding what she feared most right now than even Kyuubi's return. I'm pregnant and Uzumaki Naruto is the father, said Hana holding up the one thing that would make her mother fall over in an instant. A positive pregnancy test. And sure enough, Inuzuka Tsume did fall over and faint from the news. Naruto's apartment. And the collection of wonderful items has grown once more, said Naruto as he put the lovely black panties belonging to Hana next to Kurenai's and let out a laugh worthy of a warrior having conquering another worthy opponent. Must get free. Must mate with Naruto-kun. Must please him once free. Said Kyuubi as she was pacing around, going completely crazy and wanting a piece of the saiyan in a bad way. And Amik number 2 Jiraiya learns to fly. Hamongaki. Teach me how to fly. Said Jiraiya, as he had seen Naruto flying around and knew such a thing would benefit his research, along with the means of getting away when caught. Why should I? Said Naruto while his teacher was now on his hands and knees begging him pathetically to learn the secret. Because I'll teach you anything you want to know. I'll teach you how to summon toads like your father did. Said Jiraiya seeing Naruto thinking the offer over. Teach him Naruto-kun, said Kyuubi in his head. What? Thought Naruto in disbelief at Kyuubi. I have an idea. Trust me, said Kyuubi as she told him her idea and it made the blonde Saiyan grin evilly inside while keeping it from the Sannin. Alright Jiraiya. I'll teach you. Consider it a freebie, but you can only use the ability in an emergency for now since it takes a long time to master and while I'm sure you could get it down in no time I doubt you will start right away, said Naruto seeing the Sannin jump for joy and thanking him. What do I have to do? Said Jiraiya as he was told what to do and soon enough the Sannin rushed off to the nearest hot springs. Never seeing Naruto's evil-looking grin in the process. I needed this so damn badly, said Anko, as she relaxed in hot springs with Kurenai, Hana, Tsume, Yoshino, and Yugao all doing the same. I'd drink to that if we had some sake, said Tsume with a grin. Above them, Jiraiya was hanging onto the branch, looking at them with binoculars and grinning deviously from his position at seeing the women below. So many breasts. So much wet female flesh that he wished would willingly surround him instead of their fists and feet that normally did when caught by such women. Sometimes Jiraiya cursed his luck in not being hot spring water as he would love to be such the element right now with so many hot women and just feel the flesh these babes had. So unfair. If he were a Wonder Twin from the Super Friends, this would be the first place he'd go after using his half of the ring. Below him on the male side of the hot springs, Naruto watched his perverted sensei doing his things and knew it was time to nip this in the bud. Shooting a small blast of energy from his right hand's index, the attack hit the tree branch with enough force that it took enough off for the weight of Jiraiya to be too much and soon gave way with the Sannin falling into the middle of the female side of the hot springs. Of course Jiraiya was trying to use the flying ability the moment he started to fall, but it didn't work and remembered what Naruto said about it taking time to master. Now Jiraiya wished he had. Uh-oh, said Jiraiya seeing the angry-looking women surround him and knew begging for mercy was out of the question. Anything to say before we kick your ass? Said Anko while looking peeved at seeing the old pervert getting a look at her body. Only Naruto was allowed to see it. Think happy thoughts and I'll fly. Think happy thoughts and I'll fly, thought Jiraiya in a desperate attempt to get out of this situation. Sadly for him, the Sannin didn't even hover and by this point Jiraiya had a feeling he had been duped by his student. "Bet him," said Hana as she along with the others grabbed him and started to hurt the Sannin badly. "AHH. No. Not that. No. Don't shove my foot up there. AHH. Stop. Mercy," yelled Jiraiya while the women were basically turning him into their own version of what a pretzel looked like. "Filthy old pervert. No respect towards us vixens during our time of relaxation," said Kyuubi as she along with Naruto could hear the screams of Jiraiya being music to their ears and loving every second it. "Says the demonic vixen who wants to be free and rot with me for the next 2000 years," thought Naruto with Kyuubi blushing. "Shut up," said Kyuubi before going deeper into her cage while muttering about hot Saiyans being unfair and what they do to hot vixens like her. What if Super Saiyan Rose Naruto Chunin exams, and thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.